Good morning, everybody. My name is Jared Solomon. I am a state representative from Northeast Philadelphia, and I'm proud to co-chair America250PA Legacy Caucus. So welcome today. Senator Phillips-Hill cannot be here today, but we've been traveling the state trying to talk to folks like you about how we want to usher in 2026 with legacy improvements that will hopefully dot our whole Commonwealth in all 67 counties as we approach 2026. Now, why is this all important? And then a brief history about how we got here. So I hope, I really hope that we are all on Team Pennsylvania. Regardless if we are Democrats or Republicans, we believe in a state that is firing on all cylinders, that is number one in every single possible way. This effort embraces that principle. So it's hard to say no to something that wraps itself in Pennsylvania and the history of our country, as well as not just the past of Pennsylvania, but the present and charting a future beyond. So we started this effort. Oh, and by the way, I think being on Team Pennsylvania, it is trying to bring Republicans and Democrats together in this effort to advance the best interests of our Commonwealth. And we've done that through the legislation. When I got elected to office, it was in 2017, and I thought that all levels of government, local, state, federal, talk all the time. There was constant communication, and they were all friends, and we get together. Then I got elected, and no one talks to one another. I mean, you might run into one another, but everyone's busy, and government tends to be very siloed. This changes, this flips the script on that and says, as we approach 2026, let's all work together towards something spectacular in Pennsylvania. And what a great place to be talking about Team Pennsylvania and working together than Erie, Pennsylvania. When I've been to Erie, PA before, I've been astounded. And this is a testament to the reps and the senator from this area. You all do work together. You restore vacant property, historic properties. You're revitalizing your business corridors. You're actually doing what a lot of areas talk about, which is you are making private-public partnerships work. And so it is great to be discussing that here in Erie. Now, how we got here, bipartisan piece of legislation that created this commission. Cassandra Coleman, executive director, is a result of that. It's not, a lot of times you pass legislation, and it can be years before you see the sort of fruits of that legislation. What's remarkable, and I worked with a Republican colleague, Alex Charlton, to pass the legislation that formed the commission, is it became like a living, breathing thing with staff and with programs and initiatives. So it's been such an amazing experience to watch this organization grow, America250PA grow, and Cassandra will speak to that in a bit, but it's really her efforts that have allowed this organization to move forward. So we created this entity, and then one of the key components of this was trying to find a way to get everyone involved in 2026. And we thought if we could get all representatives in the General Assembly and all senators together agreeing on that we needed to inject resources to create new infrastructure legacy projects in anticipation of 2026, everyone would be on board. And that's what we're doing. That's what we are attempting to do to create those legacy infrastructure moments throughout our Commonwealth. It's great to be here. I look forward to your testimony. I'm going to turn it over to the senator if you want to say hello and talk about a bit about America250PA. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Representative, and welcome to the district, by the way. We're pretty, Bob's sitting right next to me here. We're pretty proud of our district. We have a lot to offer. Really looking forward to hearing some of the projects that are going to be presented today, as we decide what legacy projects we want to fund And I will tell you that, you know, Representative Solomon was very honest when he said, you know, there's a lot of silos that we work in, and this is one of those areas where people really are coming together. I talked at great length to Senator Phillips-Hill, who's also on this commission, and I think we have the ability and the resources to really pull this off and make Pennsylvania hold up to its moniker, the Keystone State, for all of America. And looking forward to what we have to talk about today. And I appreciate everybody being here, so thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Mursky.
Thank you, Chairman Solomon, and I wanted to welcome everybody here, and especially Executive Director Cassandra Coleman. Thank you for hosting here in Erie. We appreciate the opportunity. I also want to thank the Jefferson Educational Society for allowing us to use their space. This is a wonderful community resource, and we appreciate them. Thank you to my colleagues who showed up today. In my former life, I was a history teacher, and so these types of projects are really special to me. And going across the Commonwealth and hearing all of these legacy projects being presented has been really an honor. And there's a lot of great things going on. But it's not just about our history. It's about where we're going in the future. And these legacy projects are going to propel Pennsylvania forward for the next 100 years. And so I'm really excited to hear all of the presentations today. I was just speaking with Executive Director Coleman, and Erie had the second largest amount of applicants behind Philadelphia. And so that's a testament and a credit to you. So I want to thank all of you, and we're looking forward to your presentations today. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Wentling.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name's Park Wentling. I'm also a state representative. I currently represent the 7th Legislative District in Mercer County. However, for 8 years, I formerly represented the 17th Legislative District, which included parts of the West County of Erie, Crawford County, middle of Mercer, and down into Lawrence County, where I used to be a teacher, industrial arts tech ed teacher. Looking forward to your testimony, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Representative. Cassandra Coleman, Executive Director of America250PA.
Thank you, Representative, and hello, everybody. Thank you again for being here today. We are just so excited to see all of the folks coming out across the Commonwealth. We've had 12, we're going to have a total of 12 public hearings, the projects, the work. Thank you for everything that you do on a daily basis. Here at America250PA, we are truly trying to engage every county and every Pennsylvanian in our efforts. We have over a dozen programs and projects that are currently ongoing, and our team is working now on the calendar of events and signature events for 2026. So I do encourage you to go to America250PA.org to learn more about those. And again, those will be statewide in all counties. So again, we're thrilled to be here to talk just a few minutes, a few seconds even, about the process today for testimony. So Representative Solomon will introduce each testifier. At that time, we ask you to come up with your name tent to this testifier table here in front. At that point, you will have 5 minutes to deliver your testimony. At 30 seconds remaining, you'll hear one ding of the bell. And when you are finished with your 5 minutes, you'll hear 2 dings. We ask you at that point to please finish the thought or the sentence. We do have an abundance of testifiers today, so we just want to be cognizant of everybody's time. And we are asking the panel today, if at all possible, to try to keep a comment or question to one from the panel to each testifier, just again to be cognizant of time. So with that, Representative Solomon.
Thank you so much. And I should mention, once these are all done, once we're done the tour, we're then going to come together as a committee, 12 Ds and Rs, and 12 Ds and Rs, 12 Ds, 12 Rs, House, Senate, 24 total, and then pick the projects that we would like to see funded. We're going to then work with our colleagues and try and get every single member in the State House and State Senate to support this effort to hopefully get those projects funded so we can get these projects moving. Okay, first up, and if I mispronounce anyone's name, please correct me right away. Theron Miles, did I get that? Sorry, Theron. Theron Miles, Clarion Blueprint Community. Please come up and begin your testimony.
Hey, Cassandra, while we're waiting for him to set up, I know I'm not the only one old enough in this room to remember America's bicentennial, so pretty excited to be here for this one.
Better? Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having us here today. My name is Theron Miles, and I'm a representative of the Clarion Blueprint community. And our project is the Clarion Blueprint Community Multi-Generational Park. This park is a multi-phase project that began in 2019 with a motivated community that came together as private individuals to create a turning point in our small town and our small economy. This began with a individual coming to us with the suggestion that we need to improve the life of the residents of Clarion by having more recreational opportunities and places to go. Clarion's a small town with a lot to offer, beautiful nature and beautiful community and beautiful people. However, we lack amenities that most communities have. This individual requested that we would work to build a small park, a place for families to go, exercise within walking distance of the population mass. So we put out a community flyer and asked them to give suggestions on what the town needed, and it was unanimous. Everyone agreed it needed sports courts, basketball courts, a place for families to go and play, playgrounds, and all within walking distance, all things that we do not have. So immediately we got to work in early 2020 and started to design a park and find a location for it, which we were lucky enough to find a location of an abandoned lot in the center of our town within walking distance of over 8,000 people. The property was for sale, and after working with the landowner, they agreed to donate a large portion of it to the community, and we were able to purchase the rest with the individual who sparked the idea's donation as well. From there, we moved into engineering right away, taking all the community suggestions and moving forward to design a park that was inclusive of everyone. What we found was the community wanted a place for all generations to go, from a 2-year-old to their grandfather, and everyone having something to do in between. Now, before I go too much further into our park, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Clarion. Clarion started out in 1839 when it was first settled as a lumber community. It was a community where we were able to float logs down the Clarion River to the Allegheny into Pittsburgh. That is what drove traffic and travelers into our town. As it progressed, we turned into a iron ore furnace community because of the amount of lumber we had to burn to make iron ore and turn it into steel. As those resources dried up, our community had to adapt and change. As it adapted and changed, we became a manufacturing community. And through this manufacturing, we became a large glass industry community where we manufacture glass bottles and jars. Later on, we moved and became a coal community, and as the coal industry changed, so did our economy throughout the town as it dried up. And moving forward, we also became a housing manufacturing community. As a housing manufacturing community, we provide modular homes to businesses throughout Pennsylvania and the eastern United States. As the recession hit in 2008, it had a sharp turn on our overall economy and manufacturing. The economy changed and the glass plant closed, which was our largest employer, which caused a large amount of unemployment throughout our area. As the community moved forward, we worked to recover from this loss. However, we unfortunately experienced several other community losses of Sealy Mattress Factory and several home and housing plants throughout our region. Moving into recent years, we've also seen a sharp decline in our Clarion University's enrollment, which changed the downtown and housing market throughout our community as well. Since then, the towns came together and worked to redevelop. We redeveloped our old glass plants into pad-ready business parks. We've worked with businesses to bring them in from other states, including oak lumber kilns and oak barrel kilns, and then also a modular multi-story housing pod manufacturer. So with all these changes at Clarion, we knew we had to sharply move forward on our park project, and the best thing we could do was to bring something in that would help the housing market change and bring new people to the community. This park will include an ice skating rink, a basketball court, tennis courts, a large ADA compliant playground for children, and it covers over 2.5 acres. We feel that our efforts are the true American dream as we came together and redeveloped our community as we move forward. We're putting everything we have into it as a small town to bring our town back, and we feel this will be the pinnacle changing point.
Thank you so much for the testimony. Just briefly, the private funding that you said you have committed, how much is that?
$2.3 million.
That's already committed.
That's committed, and that takes us through phase 3 of the project.
I see. Okay. And the commitment on the local share and the greenways trails, which phase is that going towards?
That goes towards phase 2, which is currently under construction on the greenway trails. It's $242,000 plus the private donation match, and then the LSA goes towards phase 3, which goes to bid in January of 2024, and that's $400,000.
So we have rec centers in Philadelphia, and rec centers are a great place where relationships are formed, there's after-school activities, it's a safe place for kids and their families. What is the particular need for this in anticipation of 2026? Is it one of those 3 that I mentioned, or is it something else?
So the particular need is a place for families to go and have a opportunity for recreation. This funding would go towards the center of this park, which is the multifunction area, the outdoor ice skating, which is the only recreational, and the splash pad. We no longer have a public pool. We have no outdoor basketball courts. We have no places for a family to even go and play on a swing set. And this
In all of Clarion?
In all of Clarion. Now, there's some private churches that have swing sets. However, and there's some private organizations that have a basketball hoop. But in general, Clarion Borough has no amenities for families to walk to or even drive to within 5-6 miles.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Senator.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Real quick, fairly familiar with Clarion, so if I'm coming off the highway and I come up to the the red light there in the center of town, where is this from there?
So you would head east or west from that point, and you would go to the last red light in town, and instead of going right to our high school, you would go 2 blocks to the left, and that's where the park will be.
Okay, all right. Not that this even matters. Who donated the land?
So the land was donated by the private individual. He donated $30,000 towards the purchase of the land. He was the owner. And then Janice Horn is a longtime resident of the community. She's retired from Clarion University, and she donated the additional $100,000 to purchase the land.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Everyone good? Thank you, sir, so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time. Next up, we have Todd Burns, Grove City Area Historical Society and Museum. Todd, please come up and provide your testimony.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming up to Erie, giving us your time to listen to our presentations. I'm Todd Burns. I'm from the Grove City Area Historical Society. I'm the treasurer and a board member. Grove City was founded in 1798 by Valentine and Margaret Cunningham. They built a mill on Wolf Creek, and eventually family and friends joined them. Our historical society was founded in 1998 at the bicentennial, and our purpose is to preserve history, heritage, and the supporting artifacts of the Grove City area. We're small, Grove City is small, but our historical society has over 350 subscribing members. Our Facebook page has over 3,500 followers, and we have over 50 volunteers, which allows us to have our building open 6 days of the week, free of charge. In 1998, we purchased a building, the Travelers Hotel. The building's over 100 years old. We have 13 rooms of exhibit in it, including we have what we think is the only horse-drawn mail wagon in the state of Pennsylvania. We also have a large room given over the hammer and aluminum industry. We have over 10,000 items in our collection. We have a 10-page newsletter, and we write and print a lot of books. We work closely with the Chamber, and we're one of the founding members of the new Western Pennsylvania Historical Coalition. Today, I want to take you back to 1797, the year before Grove City was founded. And in that year, 4 Huber brothers came to Liberty Township, right outside of Grove City, from Germany. And they were men looking for opportunities for their families and for themselves. Just like Valentine Cunningham, they built a mill. The lumber from that mill became the first Mercer County courthouse. Then they moved into Grove City. They're masons and stone workers, and they built brick buildings in Grove City, several of which are on Broad Street. One right around the corner on College Avenue is our building. Our building was built in or before 1906. Old is wonderful in public buildings, but old buildings always want to fall down. So over the last 3 years, we have added a dehumidifier system. We've renovated the front 2 rooms. We've redone our public restroom and backed the ward to be completely ADA compliant. Unfortunately, we've had some leaks in our roof. So 3 years ago, we sealed the left-hand wall of our building to seal the leaks off. Now we have 4 damaged rooms that have to be renovated. Also, energy efficiency is an important issue in an old building. We have replaced our first floor lighting, or half of our first floor lighting, with LEDs. We need to replace the other half. We have a second restroom on the first floor which needs renovating, since you can walk into it and you can see down in the basement. Our budget for these jobs is $42,500. We are in midst of our 25th anniversary celebration, part of which is supported by 25 for 25 capital campaign. Funds from this effort will be used to support the jobs that I just mentioned. Our building is not glamorous. Up until 3 years ago, we didn't even have a sign on the front telling you who was there. But what can be more appropriate as a legacy project than to protect this old building, which in turn protects our collection and can be traced back to those early pioneers who helped build Western Pennsylvania. We are committed to maintaining a permanent reminder of the early foundation of our area, and in part, it is continuously played in Pennsylvania, from industry to education and to stories such as its role in the Underground Railroad and the part of our military volunteers played in keeping America free. And if we're here in 25 years to celebrate another important anniversary for the United States and Pennsylvania, I'll be asking you for a new building and an elevator. Thank you very much again, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
You're trying to double dip already.
Well, I didn't hear anything about any funding yet.
No. I like it. So Todd, where is this mail wagon?
It's in our basement. It's a whole wagon.
It's in the basement.
We took it apart and took it down the stairs.
What are you going to do with it?
Well, it's pretty unique if you have your...
No, that's what I mean. Are you
Yeah.
going to rehab it, or?
No, we have rehabbed it to a limited amount. But it was the last postmaster that drove it was Hood Reynolds. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is his grandson, who was in my class in high school, and is now a veterinarian in Ohio, his grandson kept this in a barn, kept this in a barn all these years, And 3 years ago, we did a little bit of renovation, took it apart, put it in the basement.
Some of the you mentioned here about the contribution to the cultural vitality of the region, and you talked about that in your testimony. Specifically in terms of 250, what is your vision? How would you welcome people from surrounding counties, people from across the nation? What are the programs? How would you highlight some of these new improvements in your building?
We already do that. Some of this, to avoid the dreaded bell.
Oh, no, Bell's done.
I-
Bell's
I
done.
went- I
Bell's
went, I
done.
went, I went through that kind of fast and left some things out. But it's amazing how people come to Grove City, and probably everybody in this room has been to Grove City because of the shops, the outlet shops. People come from Grove City College, people come to see Wendell August, but more and more we can tell from our register on the front desk, people come to visit the Historic Society. 13 rooms of exhibits and 10,000 items, and we're constantly pushing that out, and our out-of-state visitors increase every year. And in fact, we didn't used to pay attention to it because there weren't any. And now we've started to keep a log and pay attention to how many people come.
So you think this would just drive more visitors to
yeah,
you by
definitely,
2026?
definitely.
Okay. Anyone? Questions, comments? We're good? Todd,
Great.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Next up, we have Jeremy, Executive Director, Bayfront East Side Task Force. That's right. Is it Blauser? Blaze, that's why I didn't say it. Please go ahead.
Good morning, committee members, and welcome to Erie. I am Jeremy Blazer, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Bayfront Eastside Task Force, better known as BEST, a neighborhood revitalization nonprofit serving Erie's historic East Bayfront. I also serve on the board of the Three Forts of Presque Isle, LLC, which along with BEST initiated the project I'm going to describe to you today. John Nolan, the nation's first self-identified town planner, was hired by the city of Erie in 1913. In his report and discussing my neighborhood, he pointed out the importance of the area by expounding on the French and Indian War, the British occupation of Presque Isle, the death of General Anthony Wayne on Garrison Hill, and Oliver Hazard Perry's fleet in the War of 1812. More prominently, he admonished the Erie community for losing sight of the neighborhood's overall significance, stating that the history made on this piece of ground would fill a large volume. Our Infrastructure and Improvement Legacy Project requests $1.5 million to build an American Fort Presque Isle Plaza on the garrison ground to celebrate the significance of this land and lake connection, central not only to the history of Erie, PA, but the heritage of our nation. Recognizing the mission of the 250th Commission, our project will honor the past, will impact the present, and be around for future generations. BEST is dedicated to improving Erie's oldest neighborhood, the historic East Bayfront, a neighborhood that wouldn't exist without the Three Forts of Presque Isle. The Forts project began with the 2018 Jefferson Education Society publication by Michael Furman entitled A Time to Act, The Case for Heritage Tourism, Rebuilding Erie's Three Historic Forts. Furman's presentation compelled BEST to further explore the possibilities of rebuilding the forts as the site lies within the boundaries of the East Bayfront. In 2019, BEST, with the support of our board of directors, formed an LLC to support this investigation and pursue the creation of this one-of-a-kind asset. BEST was awarded grant funds from several local organizations to hire David Curry of Encore Interpretive Design, a world-renowned historical tourism consultant, to complete a master plan for the Three Forts of Presque Isle. His 2021 document, our master plan, is the basis for this project. We welcome the opportunity to present this project for consideration, as the construction of the American Fort Presque Isle Plaza is a shovel-ready project made for celebrating United States' 250th anniversary and Pennsylvania's continuing contributions to this great nation. The American Fort Plaza would tell the story of both Erie's oldest neighborhood and the nation from its earliest moments as a tribal territory to the present. As home for both Erie's oldest families and newest American residents, the site of the forts is a testament to the ambitions of three world powers vying for control of the same geographic area, given its strategic and advantageous position to control both the land and the lake of the Erie Triangle. The American Fort Plaza is the first stage of a larger project to reclaim and celebrate this rich history. The garrison ground where we propose constructing the plaza is sacred. First, General Anthony Wayne, who ordered the construction of the American fort, was a Revolutionary War hero who fought alongside Washington and Lafayette, and who is credited with opening the Ohio Valley for the Western expansion. He died and was buried at the foot of the flagstaff at Fort Prescott. Also, the fort was a command center for Oliver Hazard Perry during the War of 1812, and his efforts culminated in the Battle of Lake Erie. The flagship Niagara's flag, "Don't Give Up the Ship," is on display at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. Further, the garrison ground is the site of Pennsylvania Soldier and Sailors Home, built in 1868, Pennsylvania's oldest veterans home. The neighborhood sits on a treasure trove of rich history that, if properly excavated, packaged, and promoted, will infuse the Erie's regional core with momentous economic opportunities. Reawaken Erie's great civic story. The creation of a new historic asset will draw upon the millions of visitors coming to Erie each year to enjoy our beautiful waterfront attractions. In addition to creating construction and landscaping jobs, the plaza would provide opportunities for school tours, increased heritage tourism, connections to other heritage sites throughout Erie County and across the state, along with additional economic opportunities. The stars are aligned as the plaza would also be able to capitalize on the possibilities afforded by multiple other infrastructure projects already in process, such as the planned pedestrian bridge crossing the Bayfront Parkway and other local initiatives to improve and increase bike and pedestrian routes. Thank you for your time and attention and for considering this investment in Erie.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. You mentioned that it's one of the 10 most visited sites in Pennsylvania in terms of Prescott Island. And we've always been thinking about how to better connect the state in anticipation of 2026. So here you mentioned Independence Hall, Gettysburg, Carnegie Museum, and a bunch of others. What would be your plan in the years leading up, let's say 24, 25, to really connect these different sites and drive people not only to Prescott Island, but to these other top 10?
So the purpose of that slide, honestly, is to highlight that out of the top 10, many are historic sites. And so we know by building a new historic site, there's already built-in tourism attraction throughout the state. But we have already reached out to the other forts, such as Fort Pitt, Fort Niagara, Fort Necessity, and talk to them about our idea and our project. They're actually very excited because they feel like that would just additionally increase how many people would want to travel to historic sites throughout the state. And if we are successful with our entire project, this project is just the tip of the iceberg of our much larger 3 forts of Presque Isle. If we can get to the finish line on our overall master plan, we'd be the only place in the country that would have 3 colonial forts that you could visit at the same time and see how the differences were through different generations. So we feel like we'll reach out to everybody that is on that list and then some to make sure that we are on the list of places you have to visit.
No, that's right. And so by connecting those forts, what does that look like? Like how, if I am coming from California to Pennsylvania in 2025,
Right.
why am I going to come to the forts in Pennsylvania? What is the story you're going to tell? Meaning not just you, but the others as well.
Right. So it really tells the story of how our country started. The main focus of the current tourism story goes from east to west. It talks about from Philadelphia going over to Pittsburgh and Washington's journey. But there is also the story from the north to the south. So starting in Erie, coming up the hills, coming off the water, and re-envisioning what that looked like back in the day, and then traveling all the way down to Pittsburgh. We want to connect with Fort LaBeouf and going all the way down to Pittsburgh so that there's a north-south story as well as the east-west story.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Senator.
Jeremy, thanks for being here today. I've been a long-time fan of this project already. I probably shouldn't say that, but I have been. When it comes to these projects, though, you mentioned shovel-ready. Shovel-ready is one thing, but we have to have these done in time for the big event, right?
Sure.
Do you think you'd be able to complete that in a short amount of time that we have left?
We are very confident. David Curry, our consultant on the project, he's helped establish and open up many projects. The Medal of Honor is one example. Fort Nashboro, which is down in Nashville, Tennessee, he also opened. So he has already connections with who would help develop the different vendors who would provide us lumber. He's done these over and over and says if we're able to secure this funding, he can lead us to being ready for the honor.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Representative Mirsky.
Thank you, Chair Solomon. I want to thank you for your testimony today. part of my work when I was at East High was teaching Erie history, and one of the unique things about Fort Presque Isle is that it was the three forts. We had the original French fort when the French controlled this area. Then the British overtook it, and then it was a British fort. And then when we became a country, an American fort. It's a unique piece of history in a town where we don't have a lot of colonial history. And I think this fits well with the scope of what we're trying to do with America250PA. I did have a question, though, about finances. Are you bringing any money to the table, or is this fully funded by the state?
So the funding, good question. The fundraising that we've done thus far, we raised $50,000 for our master plan. We're now actually raising $30,000 for a feasibility study. What we were told was the master plan is the shock and awe, shows all the wondrous things that we could create, but we need to show that this is going to be around not just for 5 years, but for 50 years and then some. So we've raised $15,000 for a feasibility study. We have another source out right now for the other $15,000. So total we have $80,000, but it is all in planning. To actually create this project, we would need the resources that the 250th Commission is looking for to create what we want to establish.
And then just to be clear, this would be the first phase of the three phases?
Exactly. So this is just to create the Fort Presque Isle American Fort Plaza,
American Fort.
and then we would continue seeking other resources for the additional plazas and our interpretive center.
Thank you.
Everyone good? Okay, thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you. Next up, we have Anita Bratina, Chairman, no, that can't be Chairman, Chairwoman, Friends of the Manor Charitable Trust. I got that right? You did. Well, finally, one of them.
Is that better? Okay, thank you. I was going to review three things quickly before that bell. First of all, who are we? So the Friends of the Manor Charitable Trust is a reorganization of an old nonprofit that was responsible for historic preservation of a building in Jamestown, PA called the Gibson House Manor. And the Gibson House Manor was built in 1856, and for those of us who just started studying American history about a year ago, because 7th grade was a long time ago, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 basically created a nightmare for anyone of color that lived or was traveling through Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the first state north of the Mason-Dixon line. It is very close to Lake Erie, and for anyone trying to get north, the Fugitive Slave Act created a nightmare for people of color because they had to go to Canada. They couldn't stay in the United States any longer. And so our pathway, the north-south corridor between Pittsburgh and Lake Erie, of which Jamestown and Meadville and Mercer and Sharon are all part of that corridor, this house was designed as an Underground Railroad safe house. So it was designed and built by a doctor and his wife who was from Meadville. And the house has 11 places in the house that are still visible today that could be shared with visitors as what does it mean to be a safe house? Where did they hide? How did they get there? How did they get past Jamestown to go to Erie? So we did our homework, put together a program to start attracting people to come to Jamestown to see this house. Even though not all of the elements of the house were completely visible, they were at least, you could see them. So for example, we have a jail. There was a jail built with shackles and leg irons. But a restaurant in 1983 removed them to put in a wine cellar. So we know, because the owner's still alive, the previous owner, where those shackles were, and we know exactly where they need to be put back, but we have to do that. I gave you in the testimony the 11 locations that we're trying to improve and share with visitors. The reason that we're here today is that Peggy Mazik from the Mercer County Convention and Visitors Bureau brought us our first tour. She brought us a tour of 50 people in January of this year. She called and said, I'd like to, since the Gibson House is one of 4 locations in Mercer County that's considered part of the Underground Railroad history, we'd like to come to your house as one of the 4 locations. And we, if anyone's ever been asked to speak on a topic that you're not completely familiar with, you know the feeling of panic we had, because all of a sudden we were going to be the experts on a house that we've been taking care of for 20 years, and now it was showtime. So we did do our homework. We got help from Teal College. We got help from the Historical Society of Mercer County, from the Historical Society of Jamestown. We, from Peggy Mazik, and they helped us put together a fantastic 2.5-hour tour. So the amazing thing about history is if you can't say it, then it's not really real. So being able to tell the story to 50 people kind of changed our whole view of how we could use this house. So we decided this house could be our a historic visitor center, a place for people to come and not just learn about slavery and how it ended, but also learn about other historical things that were going on in the region. So we also want to be a central visitors hub for other historic programs that are going on in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the first state to abolish slavery in 1780. And if there's one thing I think Pennsylvania needs to honor, it's that you guys made that decision before any other state in the United States. So we would like to help you celebrate that.
Thank you so much, Anita. This is on the Registry of Historic Places in Pennsylvania?
It is.
So I know there are a lot of requirements with that. This budget, I mean, it seems low. I'm just wondering, for instance, because these are all historic, I'm assuming original, right? The windows, the walls and gas lantern, $15,000. I know how expensive bathrooms, showers are to install, $25,000. I'm just wondering, is it, for instance, is it $25,000, does that get us the full bathroom and shower, or is that just a portion of that?
So we already had bids. We were in the middle of doing our own fundraising and looking for real numbers. And then when Peggy told us about this program, we just brought the numbers to you. So we do have real bids from
This is a real
contractors.
bid?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And they're not huge, elegant bathrooms like the Hilton, on the waterfront. They're definitely, but they're ADA, approved, and they're
ADA as well, okay.
so they have the right size with doors. They have, the ability to open and close the door easily, and we are getting visitors. So we've had over 1,000 visitors just for the tour, the Underground Railroad tour. So we know how they're using this space now, and this would help us bring more visitors.
And you know where the tunnels are?
Well, we know
approximately
where they are. We definitely know where one of the 5 tunnels is. That one, a gentleman's great-grandfather ran through the tunnels, and he always told him exactly where they were because the house has been there.
So one definitely, 4 maybe.
Well, 5 definitely.
Okay.
1 we know exactly where it is.
Got it.
So we need ground detection radar to actually find the other 4, and we're just going to map the parking lot. so that people know exactly where they are. So.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? With those prices, it's definitely good to live in Erie. It's remarkable. I mean, that's incredible. Okay, thank you so much, Anita. I
All
really
right.
appreciate the testimony. Thank you. Richard Arthur, Eagles Hotel Curator, if you want to come up.
Good morning. I'm Richard Arthur. I'm the curator of the Eagle Hotel Museum in Waterford. We are part of a historical campus run by the Fort LaBeouf Historical Society. Our campus contains 4 historic buildings, including an 18th century garden and a small village where we use living history to demonstrate crafts such as blacksmithing, boat building, chair making, and weaving. We offer a slice of American history through living history, through the time of native peoples, where we have probably the largest exhibit of native artifacts in the region, through the French occupation, colonial history, and going up through the present. Having worked on the bicentennial in 1976, I am pleased that this time, instead of just focusing on the revolution, we are encompassing the wide story of our nation's past. The young nation that was growing and moving in the first half of the 19th century was perhaps best emblematic of the period of movement. We built roads, canals, later steamboats and railroads to allow us to go further and faster. And if you look around our region, you'll see aspects of 19th century transportation covered at many sites. There are several railroad museums within a day's drive of our region. Story of canals is told at several places not far from here. These living museums give us some perspective of the challenges faced by our ancestors as they reached further and further into the lands that we can cover today with little effort, expense, or difficulty. But stagecoach travel was the main conveyance of our region, and you cannot find a better place to tell the story of that transportation than the Eagle Hotel, a place where folks from far away would stop on their way to new homes, to build new business ventures. Here mail was delivered, here newspapers were sold, here votes were cast. History was made here, and we tell the story of that period by recreating the stagecoach travel from that period. We tell of the rigors of that travel, including the typical poor food and lodging available on the 5-day journey from Philadelphia. We talk about passengers traveling in great discomfort and sometimes needing to get out and push stagecoaches out of the mud. We give our visitors an opportunity to pay a 12 1/2 cent fare for their overnight stay using U.S. coinage, which we place in their hand, including a 1/2 cent coin minted in the Jefferson days of his presidency. We encourage them to sit on an 18th century stagecoach bench. We encourage them to lay on a rope bed. The Eagle was a contrast to the level of hospitality available in most locations. Here, in 1825, Lafayette stopped to examine the still under construction Eagle. Here, in 1849, President Zachary Taylor stayed so that he could touch a place that shaped his hero, Washington, Fort LaBeouf. Here, in 1970, with plans underway to tear down the Eagle Hotel to make way for a 20th century gas station, several citizens of Waterford pledged their mortgages to save this landmark. We now face the challenge of preserving this landmark, the first purpose-built stagecoach stop in the region, as it approaches its 200th anniversary. We need to make a detailed assessment of where we need to apply our efforts, and we need to move out to reiterate the commitment and effort applied in the 1970s when citizens first made their first painstaking efforts. The Eagle is currently the home of our tenant, the Sugar and Spice Restaurant, where 20 people are employed, and that is visited by people who every day drive miles to enjoy the comfort food prepared in this historic kitchen. So it is, in fact, a community magnet. The museum portion of the building contains a reception area featuring 18th and 19th century furnishes from real stagecoach stops. There are 2 guest rooms simulating the conditions of 1826, the first year of operation, and one in 1849 simulating the conditions of the room that President Taylor stayed in. There is another room that tells the story of Waterford's significant contribution to the Civil War, and a room dedicated to tell the story of Washington, as pictured by a rare complete set of etchings from 1932. We believe that the hotel deserves to be preserved, and it is our hope we will have it ready for the 200th birthday and American 250. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Sorry, the condition of the hotel right now, just
It is operational as a restaurant on the first floor,
okay.
and it is a living history exhibit on the second floor, and the third floor is a ballroom from the early 20th century that we hope to restore.
But you do not want it to become a working, you don't want it to have rooms where guests can stay again.
No, that was the original plan in 1970, but that is not really feasible because of handicapped access and so on.
Okay. Questions, comments? Rep. Mursky,
I
please.
just want to thank you for your testimony, and as a history buff, it's one of the things that draws us to Waterford. This was one of the stops. There's a statue of George Washington there when he was a British soldier. It's the only statue of George Washington in a British uniform when he was delivering a letter to Fort LaBeouf. And so there is a lot of history there, and this building in particular, there's a rich legacy there. So I want to thank you for all of your efforts in your preservation efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Richard. Next up, we have Benjamin Beck, Greenville Redevelopment Authority. Ben, please come on up. Provide your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Ben Beck. I'm representing the Greenville Borough Redevelopment Authority. Waterways have been a critical part of Pennsylvania's history, from their impact in Revolutionary War fighting to their economic significance as a natural resource and early means of transportation. Most of Western PA was still Native American territory at the time of the Revolutionary War, and what would eventually be established in 1819, Greenville was at that time truly the western frontier. The Shenango River and its use as part of the Erie Extension Canal is the primary reason Greenville exists today. The first Greenvillians would have navigated the riverways and settled on its banks. Greenville would later boom thanks to the canal and later the railways. This history is on display in the Wall House, Greenville's oldest brick home, the Canal Museum and Riverside Park, and the Railroad Park and Museum, which is all of these 3 museums make up the Greenville Museum Alliance. The legacy project that the Greenville Redevelopment Authority is proposing is the Shenango River Walk. This project is interdisciplinary. The River Walk would help connect history, preservation, and recreation. By preserving and restoring the Shenango River banks, we paid homage to the historical foundations of our nation and set an example of the necessary stewardship to future generations. The Riverwalk would help connect our historical institutions as well. The Wall House, which is home of the Greenville Historical Society, sits on Main Street just one short block from our river's edge and the trailhead of the Greenville-Jamestown Trail. And actually in 2026, the Wall House will be celebrating its 200th anniversary. The Canal Museum sits near the entrance of our Riverside Park and is just sits along the Little Shenango, which feeds into the Shenango. And the Railroad Park and Museum is on the eastern end of Main Street, so these museums kind of form a little triangle that goes right through our downtown, and our river helps connect all of these. This project would provide opportunities for educational programs that would appeal to both school-age children and adults. Programming would be interdisciplinary. It would include the obvious historical education, but it could also provide space for public works of art, and the river walk would serve as a site for ecological studies as well. Local residents would enjoy a rejuvenated natural space and instill community pride. Although it is difficult to pinpoint an exact local reference to the Revolutionary time, this project would serve as an opportunity for Pennsylvania's westernmost regions to join in the celebration with the rest of this great state. The Riverwalk would help improve both river and trail access, promoting recreation, all the while help provide opportunities to introduce visitors and even locals to an understanding of the historical significance of Pennsylvania waterways. In 2021, the Shenango River was voted PA River of the Year by the DCNR, and our goal with this proposal is to help showcase this incredible natural resource and community asset. A recent summit organized by our Economic Development Corporation revealed that a major need for our population growth in Mercer County is creating new amenities, and this project would both serve as a celebration of Pennsylvania history and be an infrastructure improvement that falls directly within the development goals of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. We had Anita testify before another project in your county. Is there a way to link what you're doing with her efforts? They seem both very great proposals.
Absolutely.
Talk about that.
We have a Rails to Trails, which starts on Main Street in Greenville and goes right into the Main Street. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. We have run into some hiccups with the public-private partnership that needs to happen with these trails. But I definitely think we're ultimately, I work actually as the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce in Greenville, and our goal is to tie in with Jamestown. Both of our communities really need each other. Jamestown has the state park, Pontoon State Park there, and Greenville kind of fails to, take advantage of a lot of the visitors from that. But this would help tie, especially because our river and the trailhead where it's located, which is right next to our museum, is like prime real estate for creating this type of, river walk infrastructure.
Thank you. That's great. Anyone else? Do you want to say anything about that? No? Good? Thank you, Ben, so much. Thank you. Next up, we have the Presque Isle Light Station, Lake Erie Lights.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us today. My name is Avery Shaughnessy Comfort, and I am the Executive Director of Presque Isle Light Station, Lake Erie Lights, also joined here with Tom, our Board President. The objective listed here, the Presque Isle Light Station seeks funding to cover major costs pertaining to the preservation and restoration of both the Erie Harbor North Pier Light, which we will refer to as simply the North Pier Light for the rest of this testimony, and the Erie Land Lighthouse Keeper's Cottage, located on Erie's east side. These two lighthouses are part of the Presque Isle Light Station umbrella, also known as Lake Erie Lights. These funds would allow us to repair, refinish, and replace historical elements of both the light structure and the Keeper's Cottage itself, allowing for greater accessibility for staff, visitors, and community members. It would also allow us to sustain the North Pier Light as an active aid to navigation today. The Presque Isle Light Station, aka Lake Erie Lights, preserves Erie's 3 lighthouses in Pennsylvania, and actively works to restore them to their periods of significance, interprets them for the public and for future generations, and connects the public and community to their local maritime history. Our organization stewards the preservation and education efforts of these 3 lighthouses within Pennsylvania, of which there are only 4 in Pennsylvania, so we find this to be a very unique site in itself. We believe we are a suitable project because we interpret and share this history with over 15,000 visitors to Presque Isle Light Station and the Erie Land Lighthouse every single year, with visitors from all 50 states and from over 40 countries. We have also completed successful work on the Presque Isle Lighthouse in collaboration with the Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office and also in collaboration with the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. 2 of our lighthouses are listed on the National Register of Historic Places, the Presque Isle Lighthouse and the Erie Land Lighthouse, with the North Pier Light being listed as eligible. Funding through America250 would honor the work of the Commission, we believe, by continuing to preserve these historic structures, sustain history of an extinct occupation, and offer access to our local community and to Erie's maritime history as a whole. Plus, it includes interpreting this unique part of Pennsylvania's history, since we only have 4 in the state and 3 of which are in Erie County themselves. With these funds, we would seek to restore the Keeper's Cottage to its period of significance and complete lead abatement on the North Pier Light. Most of our work at Presque Isle Lighthouse is already complete or in the process of completion through grant work. Erie's lighthouses stewarded Pennsylvania, Northeast Ohio, and Western New York's movement into the industrial era. The Erie Land Lighthouse in particular was the first lighthouse commissioned on the Great Lakes on the American side and was seen also along with the North Pier Light as a necessity for movement into the port of Erie. It stewarded many vessels from merchants, marines, visitors, supplies, or producers to pass through the port of Erie and on to cities like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Buffalo, sustaining Erie jobs through the railroads, canalways, and in the city of Erie itself. Actually, the neighborhood around the Erie Land Lighthouse was one of the first neighborhoods in the city of Erie, and we would like to interpret that narrative a little bit further. Erie Harbor North Pier Light is the most visited and most photographed lighthouse in Erie, but it has never been open for public access, and if you looked at the inside, you would see why. It is in need of significant repairs and lead abatement for this to happen, to even consider opening to the public. Our goal with the North Pier Light by 2026 is to open the bottom portion for visitation, complete lead abatement and encapsulation, increase and create virtual tours to offer to those who would be unable to access the site due to mobility issues, offer limited access to the top of the North Pier Light through guided experiences, and offering creating revenue generating activity for the site itself. At the Erie Land Lighthouse, our goal is to create and sustain a community space, of which we have already seen over 500 children enjoy the Land Lighthouse through Tower Tuesday events, which are free to the public every year. We aim to restore this piece to its period of significance, being around 1886, around the time the light was decommissioned the first time. Our goals would include removing the unhistorical elements of the house, including stucco, making repairs to the masonry, and completing repointing, ensuring that the site is structurally sound, and ensuring a safe and stable environment for visitors, staff, and the community to use. We have already established partnerships with the Erie County Public Library and ECAT to create programs for this site, and we aim to expand those over time. We believe this project itself would create up to 4 part-time roles, helping to sustain these programs over time, but would also allow for us to hire engineers, contractors, structural engineers, architects, to complete work on the North Pier Light itself. We thank you for your consideration, and we welcome your questions.
Tom, did you have anything to add?
No, I think she did a good job.
Okay, great. How total, the job number again, the number that will be sustained into the future? I understand the construction jobs, but how many will you be able to keep?
For currently, we have 4 staff members. We would like to add 4 additional part-time staff members.
So 4 total, additional to what you have now?
Yes.
Got it.
It's kind of part-time, it's full-time seasonal, really?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Our season runs sort of from summer is most of our season.
April through November.
Got it. Thank you. Senator.
Thank you, Chairman. This is, right in the heart of my district, and I would, if we can all coordinate our schedules, I would like to actually walk through this with you, and you could show me firsthand what your plans are. And,
Absolutely.
so I have it, obviously fairly familiar with what you're doing here, but if you could show me firsthand, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Erie County Department of Planning and Community Development. Jessica, when you're ready, please provide your testimony.
Ready for me? Good afternoon. I'm Jessica Horan. I'm the Director of Erie County Department of Planning and Community Development. I thank you for the opportunity to testify today. We are requesting legacy funds to kick off our goal of routing the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail through Erie County. We are proposing to construct a 2-mile shared use path segment of the trail. The Erie to Pittsburgh Trail, which has been in the development for nearly 20 years, is a proposed 270-mile network of trails that, when completed, would connect Erie's Bayfront at Dobbins Landing to Point State Park in Pittsburgh. To date, approximately 70% of that trail has been completed, and a large missing component of the trail is a route through Erie County. Currently, the northernmost segment of the trail leaves Erie County in the city of Corey and travels through western New York, returning back to Erie County on Route 5, basically circumnavigating all of Erie County except our Route 5 segment. Our Erie County Parks, Trails, and Recreation Plan, which was adopted by our County Council in 2020, indicates that it's time to change that. The focus of these planning efforts is to improve the economy and the quality of life of our residents by improving the network of trails, parks, and recreation in a focused, strategic, and regional way. Recognizing the potential for economic, recreation, and health benefits that a completed trail will generate, the county recently completed a study, which you have excerpts in your packet, that assesses the feasibility of realigning the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail so that the Erie County segment from Erie to Corey is routed from the southernmost portion of Erie County to the northernmost through 11 of our 38 municipalities. We have created a proposed route that features things like college campuses, historic boroughs, rolling rural roads, and even a covered bridge, utilizing a combination of abandoned rail lines, existing rail corridors, and shared roadways. As we begin to implement the recommendations of the realignment study, we are proposing our phase 1 to be the construction of a 2-mile shared use path that we're calling the Union City Troyer Trail, and it's green on your map on the second to last page of your packet. It will run east from Bridge Street in Union City Borough through Union Township towards the city of Corey. It will follow an abandoned railroad corridor until it reaches Union City, where it will connect to a borough-owned park, Albert L. Cafflish Memorial Park. The Union City Trail will be located 1 mile south of PA Route 6, which is a PA Heritage Corridor running through both the borough of Union City and the city of Corey. This segment has been selected to kick off our project for several reasons. First, we have significant buy-in from the communities of the city of Corey, which is the second city in Erie County, a third-class city, and also Union City Borough. The city of Corey has recently worked very closely with the development of the Corey Junction Trail, which is a segment of the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail. That project includes 0.4 miles of trail in the city of Corey. It has a trailhead, it has ADA access, and it is a great segment of this route. Union City also has recently completed an active transportation plan funded by the Commonwealth's WalkWorks grant, and that plan aims to create walking loops in the community, enhance connectivity to local destinations, encouraging bike-friendly amenities. This particular path that we're intending to build would be a conduit for continued alternate modes of transportation and support Union City's active transportation plan. But most importantly, this segment of trail we've identified to begin our building is owned by a community member, the Troyer family in Union City, and they are supportive of helping to make their property a piece of this great trail. The projected economic benefits to Erie County are very positive. Our rural boroughs and townships located within that trail corridor are looking forward to annual increases in tax revenue from business development and growth, real estate values, tourism, and jobs. And several recently completed studies provide evidence that the recreational trails are good for business and can help kickstart stagnating economies. We feel this project meets many of the goals of the America 250 commemoration, including outdoor recreation, conservation, economic development, tourism, health, and history. This trail segment will be located within the Route 6 Heritage Corridor and the National Register Union City Historic District, as well as French Creek running alongside the constructive trail. We hope that you will consider our potential project here. We anticipate it to take approximately 2 years and cost approximately $1.8 million, with the trail opening by end of year 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. You said a family is going to be dedicating land for the trail.
Yes.
Have they already signed off on that?
We are working with them on the easement agreements and the right-of-way agreements to make that happen. They have been a partner throughout our planning process, and they're very interested in working with us to make that happen.
So you think that should be smooth
We
sailing?
think that should be smooth with them. They've actually helped us to put together the application for this
So
project.
great. That's a good sign. So the
Yes.
two municipalities that you said are supportive, what are they doing to be supportive?
They have continued to be partners in the planning process, and we're looking forward to partnering with their existing parks and recreational trail networks to make this happen in a public-private partnership.
Got it. Questions, comments from others? Good. Rep. Mirsky.
Jessica, just thank you for your testimony today, and we know that Rails to Trails is a huge movement across not only the Commonwealth but across the country, and this is one of those things where does the county, I look here and I see, you're looking for the full funding, I guess is what I'm asking. Is the county going to put any money into this, or
The,
of the municipalities?
The total project to develop the whole 39.5-mile connection for the trail is somewhere around 22 to 25 million. And the county has set aside, currently has been setting aside our Act 113 Greenways funds. We have $1.5 million in the bank that we would be able to contribute to this. This particular segment, we're really trying to use as a kickoff point to really get things moving towards the total 39.5. So we do have county dollars to help make that happen.
Thank you.
Representative Wentling.
So I applaud your efforts. I'm the former president of the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail Alliance, and this is something that was a concern of mine from the very beginning on how to get to Erie by going through New York and Chautauqua all the way up towards Buffalo and then along the Seaway Trail back into Erie. To let you know from earlier in regards to the trail that was mentioned in Greenville, that corridor actually runs from Newcastle to Greenville, and then Greenville actually goes through the Gibson property in Jamestown through their backyard that was spoken about earlier. It literally cuts through the backyard. It actually continues to Girard. So there is an alternate path too that keeps us in Pennsylvania, and I'm really glad to see that you're working from Corey into the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Thank you, Jessica, so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Gerby Holdings, Charles Gerby. Come on up, Charles, provide your testimony. Thanks so much.
You see that all right? I just want to say a shout out to Mr. Burns from Grove City Historical Society. One of his volunteers prepared a 40-page report on the Springfield furnace. That was Kathy Coulter, I think it was. So thank you. They are a great resource, and they were a big help for helping me put my effort together. I'm here to talk about the Springfield furnace, a 7-acre site. And my name is Chuck Gerby with Gerby Holdings. When we purchased the property, my wife and I, back in just last year, in Leesburg Station Road in Mercer, our goal was really just to establish a location for a second craft brewery house. We have a first location, and we were just looking for a second location. They had an outdoor location that looked to be the proper property for us, and we were very excited about it. And so we bought it with our personal funds. We've already invested about $1.2 million into the property ourselves. We moved to Grove City and immediately began looking for that second site and found it very quickly. And we purchased a site, 1015 Leesburg Station Road. We really probably did not appreciate. Almost immediately after we closed on the property, it became pretty apparent to us how rich with history the property was, and based on an abundance of natural resources and a local waterfall. In 1837, the Phillips-Hill Furnace Company, which became known as the Springfield Furnace, was created in 1837 and became a rather large operation. It was the first iron furnace in Mercer County, and it ran for through the end of the Civil War, but shortly and probably not coincidentally after the Civil War, it shut down, probably a lack of metal requirements, I'm sure. The furnace itself is still predominantly 75% intact, the structure. And this was, again, the first iron furnace in Mercer County. By 1840, the works included a 40-foot water wheel, an iron forge, and the Iron Master House. The Iron Master House we've since renovated, and it was built in 1840, and it's the only Iron Master House remaining in western Pennsylvania. And that's where the work supervisor would live with his family when the iron furnace was operating. The property has local, regional, and I think statewide importance due to its history with both industrial, tourism, and educational purposes. A lot of natural beauty and a big tourism interest. In fact, it's private property, but on any given day, there's between 10 to 40 people on the property, whether we're open or closed, just to come look at the waterfall and the furnace. And we encourage that, we support that, but part of the money that we're seeking is to support that further and give greater accessibility to the property. And some of the primary needs really are just additional parking. We have a handicap ADA restroom within the building, but it's more often closed to the public, and we want to provide some facilities for the public when they come to the property and review it. We want to build a pavilion for educational purposes and larger groups from an educational standpoint when they come and look at the history of the property. And we would like to, I don't think it'll ever be a functioning water wheel, but we have an idea of fabricating a metal fabricated water wheel and simulate the rotation with lights to just kind of give people a perspective of what that water wheel might have looked like when it was operating. So, and again, expanded parking, the pavilion to seat about 50 to 75 people. We'd like to provide handicap accessibility further, but quite frankly, the place is rather inaccessible from a walking standpoint, and it's mostly just trails that are not easily even walked by healthy people with full function. So we hope to provide some transportation means for people to come around the property, and again, just additional restrooms. And even though there's, like I said, currently a personal business on the property, we continue to grant and support public use of the property at no charge. We have people currently on the property, and again, anytime, just to review what is happening there. And there's a lot of local interest as well as regional, statewide, and even some interstate interest. We're on an RV program where people come from out of state and park on our grounds, again, for free, just to spend a night and take a look at the facilities and the waterfall and the furnace. And that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. I'm just trying to, so you're the holding company, but there's a brewery at this site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And just so
it's a tap house, and we don't make beer there, but it's a tap house.
Tap house. And then the 75% part of this that's still intact, where is that in relation to your business?
Well, we own the property as a holdings company. The brewery sits on a cliff that overlooks the waterfall, and the furnace is right at the base of the waterfall. And it's Wolf Creek that it feeds. The waterfall has obviously been there for thousands of years, but it feeds what becomes Wolf Creek. Wolf Creek feeds into the Neshannock up around Route 19 over by Iron Bridge restaurant.
And so the accessibility piece of this proposal is really the driving part because of...
Right.
Okay.
We're trying to encourage further people to use the facility as, quite frankly, almost as a public facility. We don't charge, and we allow people to come in onto the property even when we're open. And if they don't want to come into the business, that's fine. They use our seating that we have. They come look at the waterfall, which they're amazed by. They take a look at the furnace and the forge that's there, and walk the trails. We redid. There was an old railroad train line that went through the middle of it right away. We actually put iron ties back in to simulate the iron railroad, the railroad that was there, and it was fed coal from Newcastle up to Sharon, I think. So that kind of goes right through the middle of the property between the Ironmaster House at the top of the hill and the brewery at the bottom of the hill. And we're just trying to make it even more and more and more accessible for the public from an educational, historical, and tourism standpoint.
Are there any markers there now designating what actually is present on site?
Yes, quite a few actually. We've put up several markers that talk about the history of the waterfall. Interestingly enough, Wolf Creek is, I guess, one of the few creeks in the United States that actually flows north, which was an interesting statistic. And we have some information on a plaque on the house itself and when it was built and why it was there. Some information on the railroad. There's a plaque that talks about the railroad, and there's a plaque that talks about the furnace as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments? Senator.
Thanks for testifying today. I'm fascinated by stuff like this. I'm not sure if it'll make the cut or not, but I'm going to stop by on my way to Harrisburg. I'll get a hold of you ahead of time, obviously.
Yeah, please do.
I'd like to see the site. So
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Rep. Mirsky.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your testimony today. I just was curious, do you have the support of the local and county governments for this project?
Absolutely, yeah. We've already have had some help. I mean, just getting the facility built in the first place and getting permission to do what we were doing through Springfield Township. We're based in Springfield Township, and we went through the planning committee, we went through the zoning committee and the township supervisor committee, and all three levels of everything we've done. We've had unanimous support from a voting standpoint of every effort that we've had so far.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Representative Wentling.
So I believe that's actually the, let me think about this, the Franklin and Newcastle and Franklin Railroad.
I think that's right.
Okay. Have you had any discussion with your friends in Valant along the Neshannock Creek, up through the Iron Bridge area? It's actually a little closer to maybe Rachel's and Iron Bridge, and then on up through. It actually terminates up at the old Jamestown and Franklin Railroad. They had track rights into Franklin. That's why they call it the Jamestown and Franklin. If I'm correct on that corridor,
I think you're right about that.
Yes.
I've not spoken to anybody in
Okay,
Valant
yeah.
about the effort, and they're just a few miles away from where we are, obviously.
Sure. Okay. That would be a nice way to connect those communities.
Yeah.
Up from Newcastle and beyond.
Yep,
All right.
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Of course.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ed.
Next up, Melinda, Erie Yesterday, President of Erie Yesterday. Melinda, come on up.
I wondered if this would feel like a hot seat, and it does. I think it's on. Okay. I just need to speak into it. My name is Melinda Meyer. I'm the president of Erie Yesterday, and we're really grateful to be here this morning to talk with you about our proposal. So the Hidden Collections Initiatives for Small Repositories in Erie Yesterday is our proposed project. Erie Yesterday is a consortium of organizations with history-based missions that are located in Erie County. Founded in 1981 under the, I'm just going to pause for a minute because the nerves are overcoming me. So oh, you are not. Oh my goodness, this is such a hot seat.
Just pretend you're scolding your kids.
Well, I want my voice to sound smooth, so I just need to take a hot minute. Get comfortable, right? Get comfortable in the seat. So Erie Yesterday is a consortium of organizations with history-based missions located in Erie County, founded in 1981 under the direction of the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. The group focuses efforts on collaborative marketing and programming, as well as capacity building. While several of our member agencies have paid professional staff, large facilities, and regional footprints, most of our members are small, all-volunteer organizations whose missions involve the collection, preservation, and sharing out of the histories of their specific municipal footprint. You know these organizations. They are the small historical societies and museums found in every community across the Commonwealth. They are run by small teams of volunteers, and they are known as the keepers of the most local of local history. Here in Erie County, they include the Northeast Historical Society, Lawrence Park Historical Society, Harbor Creek Historical Society, Elk Creek Township Historical Society, and there are many, many others. The goal of our project is to make better known and more accessible the largely hidden collections that are housed within these small repositories. These include the volunteer-run organizations that I just mentioned, but also the fraternal and ethnic organizations, community groups, churches, clubs, and other nonprofit organizations with important archival collections. The project that we're proposing is being modeled after the successful Hidden Collections initiative of the Historical Society of Pennsylvania that focused on the 5-county Philadelphia region. The more than 40 small archival repositories in Erie County hold hundreds of individual collections documenting a wide range of topics and geographic areas. Private nonprofit organizations with a history-based mission or that have historically significant archival collections that agree to make their archives available to the public and that do not employ full-time professionally trained archivists will be able to participate in this project. The project will be led by a 5-member advisory committee made up of museum, library, and archives professionals. The project staff will consist of a contracted project coordinator, an outreach archivist, and a digital archivist. Project staff will identify small archival repositories in Erie County, survey and assess their archival collections, create summary finding aids to these collections, and digitize key collections having broad appeal to researchers, genealogists, and the general public. The finding aids will be made publicly accessible online via Erie Yesterday's website, and within this single online resource, researchers will be able to search collections held at a wide range of local archival repositories, from the smallest organizations on to the largest. Because digitization is a time-consuming and costly endeavor, project staff will select no fewer than 10 collections across all participating organizations to digitize, following the Pennsylvania State Archives digitization guidelines. Collections that can be used to create stories aligning with the America250 commemoration, as well as damaged, high-use, and highly invested in collections will be prioritized for digitization. The project team will work hand-in-hand with participants to determine how best to make these collections accessible online, which may include publishing them on a single website and or assisting repositories in publishing them on their own websites. Project staff will also serve as a resource for local repositories offering training programs, advice, and assistance. Through this project, we will recognize Erie County's heritage and, by extension, Pennsylvania's heritage, and make it more accessible to residents, expatriates, and visitors. We would love the opportunity to be part of the nation's 250th anniversary celebration as one of Pennsylvania's legacy projects, and we greatly appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Melinda, very much. The The proposal, you say the goal of the project is to make better known and more accessible the largely hidden collections of small archival repositories in Erie County, and that's what you testified to.
Correct.
So trying to figure out it seems like there's a kind of multi-layered structure of Erie historical societies that you work with, and then there are others in surrounding counties that you work with. I'm trying to figure out, in terms of the structure, where do you all exactly fit in, and are those connected historical societies in support of this effort?
Yeah, so we work regionally. Our relationships extend beyond Erie County, but the consortium itself was created to specifically support the history-based organizations of Erie County. It was created to help foster collaboration and communication. And so we actually have relationships with the Warren County Historical Society, the Mercer County Historical Society. If you look through the brochure we handed you, which is our most recent brochure, we actually have a couple of member agencies that are outside of Erie County. We have an organization in Ashtabula, Ohio. We also have one in Westfield, New York, because what we do as an internal consortium, as a small organizations group, they don't have in their areas. So they've joined us, and we've welcomed them with open arms. But we do actually communicate with the Heinz History Center as well. So we do have broad reach.
Is this sort of a big driver then, these hidden collections? Is this something that's like a shared value, a shared mission of all of these, since you seem to be one of these umbrella organizations? Or is everyone sort of rowing in the same direction, talking about this as being a priority?
Yeah, so at the last membership meeting, this was the project that the member organizations that were present voted to put forward in a proposal. And there were about 10 organizations represented at that meeting.
And last one, the other member organizations, so you mentioned other counties, do they also have similar proposals to rediscover these hidden collections, or are you the only one that is coming forward?
So as far as, I do not know. I
Right.
do not know what Warren County has put forth, or Mercer, or Venango, or any of our other neighboring counties. This is simply a project focusing solely with the small repositories in Erie County. That doesn't mean that the project could not be expanded, because I certainly think that there would be value in documenting the collections, right, in the small repositories in our neighboring counties. We just haven't explored that.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? No? Thank you, Melinda. You did great. Thank you so
I still
much.
think this was the hot seat.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kat Lyons, Operations Director, Jefferson County Historical Society. Doctor, please come up. Provide your testimony.
Should I start? Okay. On behalf of the Jefferson County Historical Society, we thank the 250PA Infrastructure Projects Committee for their invitation to present our proposal. We're excited to have this opportunity and look forward to participating in the 250th anniversary of our country. I'm Kat Lyons, the Operations Director, and our project is the Jefferson County Historical Society Main Street Facade Project. Now to introduce our town and county briefly. Jefferson County was formed in March 2004 and named for Thomas Jefferson, so we have a definite connection to the upcoming 250th anniversary. Brookville was established as the county seat in March 1830, and the second merchants in town set up a shop that same year where the History Center stands today. Our building is thus the oldest standing downtown building, circa 1830. Jefferson County is a rural destination of the PA Wilds. Brookville's downtown corridor was designated a National Historic District in 1984. The History Center on Main Street and its archives on Jefferson Street are within that district. Our Historical Society is the official historical organization of Jefferson County, designated by PHMC and the county commissioners. Our mission is to engage people of all ages in our county history and collect and care for county artifacts. The Society operates the History Center with its 12 galleries and maintains our diverse archives of nearly 23,000 objects, photos, and archival materials. We're not your ordinary small-town rural museum. Annually, we attract over 9,000 visitors. Admission is by donation only, giving families access to their county museum. We present new outstanding exhibits and humanities programming on par with larger museums to our community and visitors each year. Our 21 local, state, and national awards reflect the quality of our exhibits, in-house authored books, and programming. We are constantly evolving. For the 250th PA celebration, we are researching exhibit and programming ideas to recognize the revolutionary veterans of our county with cemetery tours, reenactments, and ceremonies, and to celebrate our county namesake and his role as a founding father. We've participated in all the bicentennial celebrations to date, both country and county, as well as the PA 150th Civil War anniversary. We look forward to joining in statewide events commemorating this semi-quincentennial. Our infrastructure. The Italianate architecture of our museum reflects the tall, narrow windows and decorative brackets with wide cornices and paneled frieze. Storefronts of this era had outsized display windows with paneled bulkheads below and recessed entry doors. The 8 first-floor windows rise 14 feet, enclosing 4 inside gallery spaces, each 120 square feet, with changing exhibits that draw people into the museum. The windows, however, are currently failing, with broken seals due to the wood framing and sashes deteriorating from the elements, and also the massive weight of the large panes compressing the destabilizing woodwork. Our facade needs to welcome visitors, not intimidate them, as the wear and tear is obvious. To summarize our project, and please see the proposals, we have 2 base proposals from local companies for demolition and disposal of existing glass and wood framing on all 8 windows. New custom panels of engineered material to withstand weather will be installed under the new windows and the framing reinforced or replaced as needed. The new windows will be encased in metal aluminum frames, color matched to the wood framing as with the new panels. Stylistically, the new replacements will maintain the historical accuracy of the original facade. The glass in the 2 recessed doors will also be replaced, and the original glass above the doors will be replaced as it is cracked. The current proposed budget is just over $101,000. For the number of jobs created, a crew of up to 7 between the 2 contractor firms will be employed, and we have 2 full-time and 3 part-time positions in the museum that will be maintained, and hopefully we'll be able to add a couple more in the near future. This construction project is vitally important to us in maintaining the original appearance of the Italianate storefront architecture. These massive storefront windows are a window into the past history of our county, beckoning visitors inside into the gallery exhibits. In closing, we appreciate the opportunity to apply for this grant funding and wish to thank the committee for their review of our application and allowing us to present a snapshot of our organization and what our current infrastructure needs are to maintain a functioning museum. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. This is the Italianate architecture is beautiful. Is this reflected other areas in your downtown?
Yes, yes, exactly. There's some buildings right across the street. Well, the YMCA, and then there's a, it's now an insurance building, has that same Italianate, the really tall windows, and there's decorative panels and friezes.
Okay. And so obviously Jefferson's built into the sauce here, right? It's the name of the county. You mentioned in your proposal the 200th centennial of Jefferson County's formation created the museum. As we come to 2026, it would seem that Jefferson would loom large. What are you doing to sort of push that brand, that sort of driver in your county in 2026?
We have been discussing with we have an exhibits committee and an education committee. So we have been discussing with those committees what sort of programming, humanities programming, and we also have reenactors on board, on our board actually. So we've been discussing what sort of programming and what sort of exhibits we can come up with. Since we are not, located on the East Coast and don't have a lot of artifacts that are Revolutionary War era, we have to get creative on that. So we also plan to use those window gallery spaces that you can see on the interior photos. What I mean by that, we would like to showcase some of our Revolutionary War exhibits in those windows to draw people in.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Senator.
Dr. Lyons, thanks for being here. What year was this building built? I was looking through the literature. I didn't see it.
1830.
1830, okay. Just a couple thoughts for you. I've done a lot of restoration work myself. This building was built in 1830, and these windows and structures have lasted this long. I was looking at the proposal, with some of the window replacements with aluminum frames and whatnot. If we're going to restore stuff to its architectural true qualities, I would suggest maybe get an estimate to actually rebuild in the original style what's there. Just food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Other comments? Thank you so much, Dr. Lyons.
Thank you.
Cal Pfeiffer, Executive Director of Hagen History Center, please come up and provide your testimony. Thank you, Cal.
Thank you all so much for hosting this hearing. So many great projects. Hope that you fund all of them. No pressure on you guys. The Hagen History Center is what we're known as today, formerly known as the Erie County Historical Society. So we've been collecting as the county's repository of historical artifacts since 1898. For a long period of time, the organization operated its Erie sites with a small downtown headquarters and a house museum located in the middle of what we know as Millionaires Row on West 6th Street. The organization in 2014 undertook a capital campaign to sell the headquarters on State Street and double down at the West 6th Street site, creating what is known today as the Hagen History Center, basically a small college campus of history-related buildings. The 2014-2015 aspect of the project was a $4.5 million, all privately raised project that restored the mansion, the carriage house, and built a 10,000 square foot archive building. Phase 2 was the acquisition of the Wood Morrison House for additional gallery space next door, and Phase 3 was the acquisition of Frank Lloyd Wright's San Francisco office and the building of a specialized building to house it. So the Hagen History Center is in fact the nation's newest public Frank Lloyd Wright site. We have experienced substantial growth in these 3 phases, and we have leveraged substantial investment in addition to our project. So the chairman of the board of Erie's largest employer, Tom Hagen of Erie Insurance, wanted me to go on the record in the formal testimony to say that it was phase 1 of the project that served as the catalyst to inspire him to create the Erie Historic Preservation Trust. That is the first model of its type since the 1960s anywhere in the country that at scale has restored an entire section of town. He also authorized me to go on the record, because this hasn't been disclosed yet, to say that his investment has just exceeded $50 million of private investment. When we talked about bringing Frank Lloyd Wright's office, there was a healthy degree of skepticism. As you know, if we were having this panel discussion 5 years ago, you would have asked, would it work? Would it draw people into Erie? Because the idea was, what would be the hook that would draw a national and international audience? And happy to say, since the debut in July of 21, it has indeed worked, doubling visitation from 5,000 to over 10,000 visitors. Last summer, we drew visitors from 19 states and 4 countries. And this past spring, we just set a record with our farthest visitor. We hosted a tour group from Australia that was here as part of a U.S. Frank Lloyd Wright tour. So it's very much a growing museum and entity. So what we're asking the commission to consider is an investment into what's already working and a 3-prong project for us. So the grand dame of the site is the Watson-Curtsey Mansion. All 67 windows were tightened up, were painted, were sealed as part of the 14-15 restoration process. They are now failing. Our preservation architect, who's the premier historic preservation architect for the region, Jeff Kidder, has affirmed they all need to be replaced. We're doing it the right way with the wood sills all to national park standards. The property is on the historic register. The second aspect of our project, and this is really about the America250, we want to welcome visitors, but when we first designed our site in first phase, we only had the mansion and the carriage house. We never had a multi-site building, so we're looking at a visitor center. And the third and final phase is access to the archive building so that we can display over 500 objects to a building that is currently closed to the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You mentioned about more accessibility for student groups. What does that look like right now?
So we host a healthy amount of field trips and school tours from across Erie County. The building that I mentioned as the third part is the largest, is the archive building. That's not publicly accessible to tour groups or to the public. So we wanted to look at what is the most bang for the buck, literally, from an investment standpoint without getting into building a new building. And that is something that is becoming more common in museums across the country. With the addition of these glass corridors, the students can come in and not only see hundreds of objects on display, but the work happening in real time of the cataloging and digitizing that's taking place.
And then you also mentioned the kind of hitting upon the different demographics in Erie. And that's very hard to do, to drive the diversity to a particular center. How can you be intentional about doing that?
So one of the best examples of that is the newest and largest exhibit that we just unveiled, largest in the history of the organization, and it's called The Story of Us. And the exhibit focuses on not only the historical immigration patterns of Erie, but it brings everything to present day in real time. So in a lot of the exhibits, you're looking at a historic black and white photo juxtaposed with a photo of immigrants from today to try to show that we are making history every day. And if you just moved here a decade ago, you have as much at stake as a family that's been here for 200 years.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Senator.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I think those of us that are local are quite familiar with how detail-oriented Mr. Hagan is, and we appreciate that out of him. And you know, obviously, we're going to give this serious proposal or serious consideration, and appreciate you. Thanks.
Representative Wentling.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that my wife went to Gannon and lived right across the street from the manor, and she enjoyed working there as a student.
Super.
So thank you.
Representative Mirsky.
Thank you for your testimony today, Cal. And I did have a question, if I'm reading this right. There's no private funding, so this is you just want everything funded through America250PA. Is that correct? Or
This aspect of the project, we're engaging in some other parts that we're going to privately fund, including a complete reworking of the gallery outside of Frank Lloyd Wright's office that we'll do the capital raise ourselves for.
Thank you. And I do, just on an aside, from when I was a kid and the Erie School District had the Watson Kirchie Mansion, to see it today, the work that you've done and your predecessors, it's been a yeoman's task, and obviously, you know, with the support of Mr. Hagan and all of the benefactors, you guys are doing fantastic work, so thank you, and kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mercyhurst University. Sam, Vice President for Advancement and External Relations. Please come up, provide your testimony.
Chair and members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you on behalf of Mercyhurst University and our Mary Angelo Performing Arts Center. Mercyhurst University, founded in 1926, stands as an emblem of service, hospitality, and entrepreneurship, serving an eclectic mix of students from across the globe. The Mary D'Angelo Performing Arts Center, nestled at the heart of our campus, remains integral to Erie's and Pennsylvania's cultural and civic heritage. Our association includes figures like composer Harry T. Burleigh, whom Mercyhurst has previously honored, and Erie native and Broadway artist Nick Adams, whom we hosted in 2022, further affirming the D'Angelo Center's place in our local and national cultural spheres. As we approach America's 250th anniversary and Mercyhurst centennial in 2026, the D'Angelo Center has become a cornerstone in our collective narrative. Often referred to as a community gem, the D'Angelo Center serves audiences not just from Erie, but also Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, and beyond, underscoring the unifying power of shared experiences. More than its aesthetic appeal, mirroring the grandeur of the Metropolitan Opera, the D'Angelo Center's true spirit lies in its significant contribution to Erie's cultural fabric. Over the years, we have hosted an impressive roster of performers, including Grammy-winning musicians, top Broadway stars, and internationally acclaimed ballet companies. The center isn't just a stage, it's a monument to Erie's vibrant cultural history and a vehicle for its future. The proposed revitalization of the 25-year-old D'Angelo Center, totaling over $2.3 million, is crucial to ensure its longevity, inclusivity, and enhanced audience experience. The renovation plans include essential structural upgrades, improvements to the lighting and acoustics, and enhancements to accessibility, critical components to ensure the center continues to inspire and unite for the next 25 years and beyond. The D'Angelo Center also impacts Erie County's economy. Mercyhurst, as a leading employer in the county, directly injects more than $115 million into the local economy annually. The university supports businesses, jobs, and community growth, and the D'Angelo Center is at the forefront of this contribution. This past fiscal year saw more than 24,000 guests, the equivalent of 25% of Erie's population, attend 118 arts and civic events at the D'Angelo Center. These guests included both Erie residents and visitors from around the country and world, supporting Erie's hospitality and tourism industries. Aligned with Mercyhurst centennial preparations, the revitalization of the D'Angelo Center is part of a larger effort to have a Mercyhurst Historic District listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and underscores our commitment to preserving our shared heritage. The revitalization of the D'Angelo Center is aligned with Mercyhurst centennial preparations. My apologies. I jumped a paragraph. With the proposed renovations, we aim to sustain this cultural and civic asset for another quarter century, aligning perfectly with our centennial celebration and vision for the future. In conclusion, the renovation of the Mary D'Angelo Performing Arts Center reflects our unity, values, and aspiration to preserve our shared cultural and civic heritage. As we approach significant milestones for both Mercyhurst and the United States of America, Let's invest in existing treasures to ensure a future filled with creativity, community, and celebration. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You mentioned here a number of the political debates that you hosted, key issues that you were, I'm sure, to be able to bring the community together, and also quite a number of named performers. What are you thinking about, or have you done any outreach to think about the topics that you would like to see play out on the stage in anticipation of 2026, some of the key issues that we face in our country, maybe those debates, and what performers have you been reaching out to try and encourage them to come to Erie in 2026?
So in terms of debates and community conversations, one of the things we'll do is we'll pair it with Mercyhurst's centennial celebration. It happens to be our 100th anniversary in 2026, and a great opportunity to look at our history and look at our contributions to the community and to the nation at the same time. And so we will have historical conversations. We will also have conversations on civility and citizenship and other sorts of conversations that are important to the democracy. And as far as Broadway stars and other musical guests, we have an exciting lineup coming this fall, and we are presently in negotiations for several other exciting artists coming in the spring and the following fall.
Any names?
Well, I can give you names of some people that we've had in the past. Last year we had Aaron Tveit, who's a Broadway star, and we had people come from as far as Australia and South America, actually, to Erie to come see him perform. And so we've got Betty Buckley coming back to a week-long residency. For those of you that don't follow Broadway music, she was one of the leads in Cats for a number of years. And so several more like that coming.
Thank you, Sam. Questions, comments? Representative Mirsky.
Thank you for your testimony. And, you know, as a Mercyhurst alum, I'm dating myself. I was there when they built the place. So it's, I graduated in 97. It was built in 96. But it was one of the things that I think is neat about the D'Angelo Performing Arts Center is the connection between education and the arts and serving the community. And it links the three together in a way that not a lot of things in Erie do. You talked about Betty Buckley. You know, she comes and does a residency with the kids, with the students, and then does a performance for the community. Those types of things bring people together, and I want to thank Mercyhurst for their almost 30 years now of having these types of performances that not only educate young people in our community, and one of the things that they did also, which I thought was very nice, was incorporating Mercyhurst Prep, the high school kids, expanding beyond just your university and your own silo and bringing it out to the community. With this, you know, Senator Laughlin and I were just talking, and we'd like to work with you on making this a reality. I'm not sure if America250 is the right place, but we can definitely work with you on this project. I think it's a worthy project of funding. And one thing I would like to, and I've been saying this to everybody, you know, if we could get some private funding as well, those private-public partnerships, so that the state's not doing the full lift. But I think it's a worthy project and a great project, and thank you for presenting.
Well, thank you, and we do plan to engage in a capital fundraising campaign around the centennial of the university, and so there will be considerable private support raised as well.
Thank you. Others? Sam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kim Hawks, Grant Director, Northwest Pennsylvania Trail Association. Kim, if you want to come up and provide your testimony, welcome.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Hawks with the Northwest Pennsylvania Trail Association, and thank you for the opportunity to come and present our project. The Northwest Pennsylvania Trail Association was formed in 2001 and is an all-volunteer 501c3 nonprofit organization that manages and owns the Corey Junction Greenway Trail. This multi-use trail is part of the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail and the Industrial Heartlands Trail Coalition. It offers walking, hiking, biking, equestrian use, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and snowmobiling, so it's a true four seasons trail. NWPTA's goals support the environment, recreation, education, tourism, history, and health and fitness. We are seeking funding to refurbish an additional 2 miles of the Corey Junction Greenway Trail, which will result in 6.4 of the 7.5 miles of the trail to be newly refurbished. This helps not only the regional trail and residents, but also the surrounding economies. If approved, this section of trail would be fully refurbished in 2024, provided the funding is there, leaving time for the PA250 programming both on the trail and in surrounding communities. In 1861, a small ticket office and eating house was built at the junction of railroads known as the Atlantic and Erie Junction, and later that year, the Atlantic and Great Western Railroad intersected the Philadelphia and Erie Railroad at a small town which was named Junction. Junction grew with the railroads and the discovery of oil in the nearby areas. In 1863, Corey was chartered as a borough and in 1866 designated as a city. By 1870, the small railroad junction spot that had turned into a city of 6,809 people, about 600 more than the 2020 census. In 2019, Impact Corey, a community benefit organization working for a stronger Corey, repositioned itself to coordinate the community improvement work of all the relevant local agencies and stakeholder groups. They recognize the need for a community strategic plan that would align the community efforts and outline critical initiatives and determine the steps, action steps, and resources necessary. The development of the community strategic plan revealed broad agreement that Corey is a city with challenges. We have a struggling economy, rising poverty, and declining neighborhoods. But also we have assets to leverage. We have a pastoral setting, historic building stocks, and the grit and ingenuity of its residents. The plan identified 5 big things that Corey must get right, one of which was improving and linking our green spaces. The Corey Junction Greenway Trail currently stops near the northern city boundary, but funding has been received to extend the trail 4/10 of a mile into the city. Plans are to continue the extension toward the Corey Rail and Trail Park at the true heart of the city center, and then continue the expansion westward towards Union City and southwest towards Spartansburg. These trail expansions are supported by the Erie County Parks, Trails and Recreation Plan, the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail Alliance, IHTC, DEP, and DCNR. In the same period, Corey was selected to be a Blue Zones project city to educate the residents on methods to live longer, healthier lives. In 2022, Corey achieved Blue Zone certified community status, the first community in the northeastern United States to do so. Part of the Blue Zone's effort included extensive community research and the development of an active transportation plan, of which the Corey Junction Greenway Trail is critical. Changes made as part of these efforts increased the walk score by 7% and the bike score by 12%. Trail Tuesdays in Corey include Blue Zone's walking moais, where neighbors meet to walk together to improve health, social life, and productivity. Maybe to learn, maybe just to talk, hopefully, to walk away, understanding each other a little bit more, and maybe even as friends. NWPTA began trail refurbishment efforts this summer, removing invasive species, trimming vegetation back to the original corridor width. Trail users and trimming volunteers alike are amazed at the difference. User numbers have also shown approval. NWPTA started tracking trail usage in 2019. Driven by COVID, 2020 trail usage increased by 85% over the previous year. The numbers dropped off 20% in 2021, but usage is currently on track to beat the 2020 numbers, all while sections of the trail are closed for maintenance. People learned valuable lessons during COVID and Blue Zone's efforts. Getting outside in nature is rejuvenating, both physically and mentally. The Corey Junction Greenway Trail is not an urban trail. Common sites are deer, beaver, bear, eagles, and hundreds of bird species. Many sections of the trail are fully lined with old-growth trees, providing shade during the hot summer, and polling shows users are now coming from as far away as Erie, Fairview, Warren, Meadville, Titusville, all without activity programming. I would say with the refurbishment of the trail, we look forward to celebrating our nation's 250th anniversary, And we plan on connecting people to nature, history, and health one step at a time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kimberly. You mentioned at the end of your presentation that these kind of projects, these trail projects, are great for our mental, physical well-being. I completely agree. And so many of these projects get us out of our vehicles, really get us to see our Commonwealth in a different, unique way. There are a lot of trail proposals. We've heard quite a number here. And as we've done, this is, I think, our 10th hearing, at least one in each region. Can you talk specifically about why yours is unique and why we should fund your particular trail proposal?
I think, so the Corey Junction Greenway Trail is very key to the regional trail. It is already existing in place. It just needs to be refurbished. So it's something that we can get done much more quickly than building the entire trail. Secondly, 1 mile of our trail actually goes into New York State. And so we are providing that keystone to the area. We're actually already actively working with Climber to help convince some residents who are kind of holding out some key properties to expand their trail to get the full loop. Like Jessica spoke of, if we can get truly connected to the cities in the area, then I think all of the communities are going to see the economic benefit. Because right now we have kind of 2 points of connection. We actually have a pancake ride coming up, where we're trying to get residents from one borough to go to the other city to have pancakes and come back and meet your neighbors. And the momentum that we've got going already, our plans are already extending into the city of Corey. We're working hard to get funding to develop a rail and trail park, which will be an awesome place for the Erie to Pittsburgh or Erie to Corey realignment. We are also working actively with people in Spartansburg to come north towards Corey and Union City to come, east towards Corey. So I think we are a key linchpin of how to get these projects done.
Excellent, thank you. Questions, comments? Kimberly, thanks so much for your testimony. Have a great day. Bishop Curtis L. Jones, Senior, Historical Institute of Culture and African American Experience. Please come up and testify.
Like Melinda, I'm a little nervous. Good morning, Executive Director Coleman, legislators, including Erie's own Representative Mirsky and Senator Laughlin. Thank you for bringing this prestigious opportunity to the Gem City. I am Bishop Curtis Jones, Sr., and along with my wife, who is not present today, Pastor Vicki Jones, we are the proud co-founders of the Historical Institute of Culture and the African American Experience. Our advisory team consists of community-minded individuals from a variety of backgrounds, and we are honored to have this opportunity to present our project to you. The project for which we seek support is the development of the Historical Institute of Culture and the African American Experience, a new cultural center celebrating the history of Erie's African American community housed in the old St. Mary's Roman Catholic Church Rectory, which is a 9,700 square feet facility. The center will provide opportunities to tell a more comprehensive story of our community in northwestern Pennsylvania by highlighting the contributions of the African Americans to the region through permanent and temporary exhibits and cultural programming, such as poetry readings, concerts, lectures, book discussions, and more. Through the fulfillment of its educational mission, the center will encourage the discovery of key people, places, and events associated with the history of African Americans within Erie County, and display how they contribute to the broader economic, political, and cultural story of our region. Erie's African American heritage is rich, from individual trailblazers like singer and composer Harry T. Burley and baseball legend Sam the Jet Jethro, to local stories relating to national happenings like the Underground Railroad movement, the Great Migration, Civil Rights Movement. This history played a critical role in the formation of the community's identity, legacy, tangible and intangible cultural heritage. The proposed project will result in a completed interior rehabilitation of a 14-room facility, which will have 14 rooms for exhibits, which are 3,400 square feet of space, and the exterior masonry restoration of the 100-year-old building that serves as the center's home, and the development of permanent exhibits and companion programming for the center. Once complete, the exhibits will feature oral histories, family photographs, heirlooms, and other projects to present a comprehensive history of Erie's African American community, including its people, servicemen and women, artists, athletes, professionals, elected officials, entrepreneurs, entertainers, places such as churches, clubs, organizations, businesses, and events such as the Underground Railroad and the Civil Rights Movement. African American museums, like our proposed center, are more than guardians of history and culture. They tell our nation's story, and it is a connection to here and now. Their curated histories and artwork help us understand the past and light the way forward into today's uncertain time. Indeed, no matter how well-intentioned or data-driven our social equity agendas are, they are not likely to succeed in the absence of an earnest historical reflection and national effort to reconcile the unsettled past with the present. For Erie, the Historical Institute of Culture and the African American Experience will work to restore public memory and light the way forward. This project is a vehicle to provide a broader and more inclusive perspective into the America250PA celebration. It is an opportunity to confront parts of our history that are challenging but must be confronted and learned from. By sharing and highlighting this portion of our history, we showcase the strength, the beauty, the creation, the faith of so many Americans that have historically gone unrecognized. My wife says it best. It's hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you're coming from. On behalf of our team, I personally want to thank you for the opportunity to testify, as we would love to have our center front and center during the America250 commemoration. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. Did you have anything to add, sir?
I don't think I should even say anything behind that. I will, in all seriousness, though, say so many projects we've heard about today, and I'm sure you've heard on your tour so far. But what we're offering is an opportunity amongst. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I should know better than this.
No, you're good.
What we're offering with this project, I'm sure amongst others, is an opportunity to tell, as my father said, the broader, more comprehensive story, maybe some of the untold stories in more detail that give more context and culture to what we want to celebrate in America250PA in Northwest Pennsylvania specifically. So you talk about the Brig Niagara and don't give up the ship. There were many black sailors whose stories and their history are not very readily known. And so this is an opportunity to share and highlight those and many, many others who have been just as engaged and involved, but haven't had the recognition and the acknowledgement of their service for our community and our country and our world. So this is that.
If I may share.
Sure.
This is not a standalone. We're looking to collaborate with the museums that are in the system within the city, within the county and the region, other counties as well. We've already have collaborated with the Hagen Museum, and they were doing a sacred building tour, and we were part of that tour. So again, we're not looking to stand alone. We're looking to fill a gap where there has been a void in the system, that we can fill that gap.
Thank you so much. I'm just two questions.
Yes.
You talk about the past. I think it's essential. Can you talk a bit about the African American experience today in Erie, the population, the percent of Erie in general, and the second is, it is so hard to engage young people to experience, feel, relate to historical figures. It's just difficult. 16, 17, 18-year-old kids.
Mm-hmm.
Is your museum going to sort of answer that call?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Dave. Dad tells me what to do. I think to answer the second question first, a lot of times it's difficult for young people to appreciate history because they don't see themselves in it. And I think this is an opportunity to show that the greatness of our community, the greatness of our nation, and even our, dare say, our world, people that look like them were involved in that process. And so I think that's a significant component of getting young people to tie in. I have a mentor that used to say, if I don't see myself in leadership, I don't feel like I'm being led by people who relate to me. And so if we're talking about history, I think that's one way. Partnering with all of the school districts and all the educational organizations, whether charter schools, and we should probably talk about that right now with state legislators. But as far as all the types of educational institutions that are around, you want to be a partner with them. Black children, seeing black men and women is in leadership and inventors and elected officials, of which I've had the privilege of being a city councilman for 13 years in Erie, right? So that's huge for black children and children of color, but I would dare say it's just as huge for children who are white and not black, or not children of color, what we would say, because it fights some stereotypes that they may have just by a lack of interaction and socialization. So I think those are some ways directly that this institute and the efforts with others can break down some of those boundaries. Seeing people that look like you doing great things invigorates you is one. And then I think our African American population, there are people in the room who could probably speak better to the details of our percentage, but I think there's probably, for many reasons, those numbers aren't accurate because of a disconnection of the black community and many in the BIPOC, beyond just African American community, of being engaged in systems, being engaged in census, being engaged in real numbers and tallying. So I think projects like this and others, I don't know if I have the data, but I can tell you the abstract idea that people seeing things that look like them, people seeing growth in the community where there's been disenfranchisement or underrepresentation or underfunding, seeing that happen differently, it gets people more engaged in the system, gets people more engaged in their community and taking ownership, literally and figuratively. So I don't know if that really answered all your question, but those are some component parts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, did you have something?
I did just
Go
want
ahead.
I'm not as eloquent as he is, but I just wanted to say I think a lot of what our young people are going through is because of low self-esteem, low self-value, and I think this museum would sort of help with that, them seeing their contributions, not just present but in the future, and create something in them to maybe to work something in the future. A lot of their problems they have is because of low self-esteem. They don't know where they come from, so they don't know where they're going. And this is just a piece of that puzzle that we're trying to put together, that they can see themselves and move forward and be positive and instrumental people, citizens within the community.
Thank you. Hold on one second.
Okay, yes.
Senator.
Thank you, Chairman. Curtis, Bishop.
Yes.
I appreciate you being here today. A couple questions. Are there any similar museums across the country that you're modeling after?
Well, I personally, I'm modeling a part of my vision as the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
That is actually my hometown, and we went down there, and it's very gives a lot of information concerning these different events. We're talking about the civil rights movement and just black history over time.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I think of, the reason that we're here is to celebrate the birth of our country and the history of it.
Yes.
I think this falls, pretty squarely within that. and I think what you're proposing here has merit, and I look forward to talking to both of you a little more, you know, at length. I know we're getting a little long in the tooth here on this meeting, so I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Representative Mirsky.
Bishop and Curtis, thank you. Curtis was my colleague on Erie City Council, so we have a very long relationship. Two things. I want to thank you for investing in the inner city of Erie at a time when the Roman Catholic Church is leaving. You're coming in and investing, and that's very important. The other thing I think needs to be repeated, it's the part where you got choked up. This is a American story that we do not tell. And I think it needs to be told. And so I want to applaud you for your efforts here. You know, like the senator said, we will work with you to support this any way we can. But it's a story that does need to be told. It's part of the American story. It's not always been a positive part of our story. But as you said, you don't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. And it's part of the American experience. And so we want to make sure that we get it right, and we want to make sure that it's a story that is told. So thank you for what you're doing and your efforts. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Representative Wentling.
Yeah, I was the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission commissioner to help dedicate the Harry T. Burley, well, the rededication of his marker. And there is more of the story to tell from my research. His father, actually, I believe, was a Civil War officer, naval officer, and he also was a judge in Erie County. So I think that's part of the story too. Hopefully, I'm correct on that. It was a little while I looked that up, but thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, next up we have Kate and Joel from the Erie Zoo coming up.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Erie Zoo and our staff, Ruth Kajansi, our Executive Director, is here with us today. I'm pleased to present this proposal to the America250 Pennsylvania Commission. As I begin today, I want to acknowledge the unwavering commitment and progress Pennsylvania and this commission have demonstrated to making America250 a 67-county celebration. Your approach to the anniversary reflects Pennsylvania's role in the birth of our nation. It is inclusive and forward-thinking. The Erie Zoo and VNet have formed a public-private partnership to develop the Regional Asset Infrastructure Modernization Plan. That's what we're applying for today. We're requesting $2.4 million and are grateful for your consideration. The Erie Zoo has been a mainstay in the Erie community for nearly a century. It's part of the memory reel of nearly every child in Northwest Pennsylvania, mine included. This project, changing our hometown zoo to a major regional attraction, would ensure it remains part of our region's heritage for another century. In preparation for the America250 celebration, the Erie Zoo is proposing a campus-wide IT and broadband infrastructure upgrade, which is necessary to enhance our visitor experience. It is also necessary for the Erie Zoo to regain its AZA, Association of Zoo and Aquarium accreditation. A few of the members of the panel here today know well that we're trying to re-achieve that accreditation. A recent market analysis showing exponentially greater public support for similarly sized zoos proves that the Erie Zoo has been surviving on love and loyalty, which explains why we currently don't have this infrastructure. We require infrastructure-focused revenue like this to get to the next level. It will allow us to serve proudly as an America250 visitor attraction. Educate, preserve, innovate, celebrate. This project addresses every focus area of the commission. As a 100-year-old regional asset, the Erie Zoo takes pride in providing a platform for each of these pillars. The zoo is a meeting ground to engage citizens while educating them on the past and future of Pennsylvania. The economic impact of this project is also significant. The projected economic impact of the plan totals $9.4 million, supporting and sustaining 132 jobs and generating more than $600,000 in local and state revenue. This is a strong investment. It will make an impact well beyond 2026. I've given you all, and I think some of our representatives locally have seen this, an economic impact analysis of the zoo. The pandemic laid bare the need to ensure infrastructure that addresses equality across all public assets. Understanding the Commission's goal and mission, I encourage you to view this project from beyond the quantitative data. Over the decades, the Erie Zoo has become a destination for underserved and poor families in the region through its Free Sunday program. Free Sunday has become a packed experience, bringing together new Americans, BIPOC, and rural families from across more than a dozen counties. The plan would enable multilingual guest experiences. The Erie Zoo, in partnership with VNet, is ready to transform this aging regional asset into an America 250 destination and ensure its viability over the next century. This project would impact the entire region while reaching audiences in Ohio and New York. The completion of the project also offers an innovative new platform to market America 250 events, leveraging our zoo's network of nearly 50,000 followers and patrons and VNet's countywide reach to its customers. This funding would positively impact the zoo's long-term sustainability. With the Commission's infrastructure investment, we can help propel one of Pennsylvania's legacy zoos into the next 100 years. With these infrastructure upgrades, the Erie Zoo would provide the perfect location to host America 250's Northwest Pennsylvania launch. I'm pleased to introduce Joel Duderman to walk you through the project.
Thank you, Kate. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the communities across Pennsylvania. I'm proud to be here presenting to the Commission, and I'm already looking forward to celebrating this American milestone in 2026. The installation of a campus-wide IT infrastructure at the Erie Zoo would be a marquee investment if supported by the Commission. For the purposes of this grant, the Erie Zoo and VNet proposed the installation of state-of-the-art IT infrastructure. Our plan includes fiber optic broadband, wireless security infrastructure, fixed cameras, and interactive zoo exhibits, all infrastructure already existing at most public zoos. To offer Wi-Fi connectivity, the zoo must first install fiber optic lines. Wi-Fi will secure long-term zoo operations open to the zoo and a whole new audience. Is necessary infrastructure to support the America 250 visitor experiences. Once Wi-Fi is available throughout the property, the zoo can install both a secure private and open public campus-wide network and video telecommunications infrastructure. During the pandemic, many families were able to peek into zoos across America thanks to those zoos' existing video infrastructure. Installing video feeds at the Erie Zoo will allow guests to visit our animals during the off-season and off hours and finally put our beloved zoo on par with others. Erie Zoo animal and vet staff will also benefit from being able to keep a close eye on animals during pregnancy, infancy, and potential illnesses. The entire project can be and will be completed by 2026. The infrastructure upgrades proposed in this grant would move the needle dramatically for a regional asset that contributes to our economy in a major way, despite being chronically under-resourced. As Kate mentioned, the zoo is a meeting ground to engage citizens from across the region. The Commission's investment in this infrastructure would make the zoo visible from around the globe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very interested. You said you feel this could be the launching point for the Northwest 250 celebration. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. So the Erie Zoo has 50,000 active followers on social media and through their lists. VNet has reach throughout the community, and the zoo is actually an excellent place, much like the Philadelphia Zoo is, to host events. So if we were able, and planning together with VNet and the zoo staff, we know that we are, to implement this project by 2026, you would have a marquee way to display your investment. Number one, through the cameras, that we could have America 250 branding throughout the zoo. We could have America 250 branding. With those cameras, we could interact with people not just in Erie, but connecting the zoos across Pennsylvania. Our zoo does have reciprocal agreements with the Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh Zoo, for example, and we could coordinate to have some sort of a celebration that helped us to launch. We see the network of people who are already engaged with the zoo and through VNet's customer base. And I mean, I look at Representative Mirsky because he and Senator Laughlin we've come to many times for funding, and they know And they love the zoo, and they have supported us religiously, really, throughout the years. So they know what an asset this is, but they also know how people react and respond to our zoo. It's a beloved regional asset, and I think that people would come and celebrate. And certainly our Free Sunday is a great way to engage new audiences with the America 250 celebration.
You talked about the regional reach, and in your explanation of the counties impacted, I'm wondering currently, I mean, because this is pretty broad reach, do you have significant engagement from each of those counties right today?
We do. We have visitors that come from really as far south as Pittsburgh down, but our reach is very regional. The 13 counties surrounding Erie County, this is a place, a destination for families. I see Representative Mirsky nodding his head because he knows that people come from far and wide to visit the Erie Zoo. Number one, it's affordable, much more affordable than our neighboring zoos. Rue and I were actually talking about that on the way here today. Maybe we should charge more money. But we're much more affordable. We're accessible with parking. What we don't have, though, is a modern IT infrastructure. So we don't have Wi-Fi. We can't offer free Wi-Fi to the public right now. And it limits us. It limits us because we don't have cameras. You know, you can think of the Minneapolis Zoo or the Columbus Zoo or the San Diego Zoo. The Philadelphia Zoo had their cameras running throughout the pandemic. They were engaging people day to day with their exhibits. You know, they were broadening the conversation, but they were all about their zoo, but they were also educating people. And so we did that by actually welcoming people onto our zoo grounds during the pandemic. So we did not have that opportunity, but we would love to have permanent infrastructure to, number one, upgrade our zoo to be on par with other zoos. Number two, it would support our AZA reaccreditation. This is a major piece of our accreditation. And number three, we think it would be really a great way to show that 100-year-old beloved asset as a part of a centerpiece of this America 250 celebration. It really would propel it into the next century in a way that's sustainable. Right now, if you read the economic impact study, you'll see that our zoo gets dramatically less public support than other zoos, not just in Pennsylvania, but like-sized zoos across the country. That's because we don't have any public revenue source. We are a city-owned asset, though. And so I think that this would be a great investment in not just our Erie Zoo, but our city.
Thank you. I'm assuming the senator and the representative have something. Senator.
Thank you, Chairman. You already said it, Kate. Longtime supporter of the zoo. I'll have to, talk to the other people on the commission about the funding, whether this is the appropriate path or maybe RCAP might be more appropriate, but certainly supportive of everything you're trying to do. So whether it's one or the other, I think, I know Bob's going to say a few words too, but I think one way or the other, we're going to try and fight for some funding for you for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Representative Mirsky.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your testimony. I do like here the opportunity, the first line, changing a hometown zoo to a major regional attraction would pay dividends for the regional economy. I also think of the infrastructure, the teacher in me, having the ability to have a classroom in Venango County or Jefferson County, have access to a zookeeper and an animal via the internet, is a way to bring the zoo to schools in a way that you can't right now. And I think that's another benefit of a project of this scope is the outreach that you're able to provide, not just infrastructure, which we need for the AZA accreditation, which is so critical to taking the zoo to the next level, but also to expose the zoo to new people, which might encourage them to then come to Erie to visit. And I loved the idea of connecting the zoos for America 250, maybe doing a zoo tour or something like that. I think that's another way to engage families in a way that maybe they wouldn't otherwise. Not everybody's a history buff, but most people with little kids like zoos. And so thank you for your testimony today, and thank you for this project.
I just want to make one note. Number one, I think Philadelphia is America's oldest zoo, so it would be fun to connect those all and to see how communities gather and how communities rally around zoos. But number two, we did get an RCAP award. I just want to note that we got it to implement our veterinary center, which is another key element to getting our AZA accreditation back. So we're really thankful for that state support. And that RCAP is going to help us not only to create a veterinary center that, again, brings our Erie Zoo on par with other similarly sized zoos, but also that is going to become a public asset because we are partnering with local veterinarians. Right now, if God forbid something happens to your furry family member, you have to drive to Ohio to get an x-ray. And so we would share that resource with local veterinarians to make sure that people in our region would have access to the same type of animal care, even if it's just your family animal. But we did get that RCAP. We truly appreciate it, and we would love to see America250 be a part of this next generation investment, which we really think could move the needle dramatically for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, we have the Oliver Hazard Perry Shipyard. If you gentlemen want to come up, introduce yourselves, and then...
I'm just tech support.
Oh, you're tech support. Let's see how you do.
As a classroom teacher, I need tech support, right? Thank you, Art. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity for me to be here today. I just want to start by saying thank you. As a veteran who wore the uniform for 30 years, this is what we the people do. We ask our government for things, and that's part of what I defended over my career, so I applaud you for the effort. I also want to welcome the board members from the Oliver Hazard Perry Shipyard that are here with us today. Our purpose as a 501c3 is to secure a decommissioned Perry-class frigate. We would like to do this through the United States Navy's donation of ships process. We are currently in phase 2 of that process. The ship that has been identified for potential donation is the USS Halliburton. The Halliburton is named after Medal of Honor recipient, Navy pharmacist mate 2nd class, William Halliburton. The Perry Shipyard will elevate the public awareness of the Navy's role and honor the experience of American veterans who served on board ships around the world. There were 51 Perry-class frigates that were commissioned and built by the United States Navy, each of which served a period of approximately 30 years of service for the armed forces. With a total of over 100,000 Navy veterans that would have been on one of those Perry-class frigates. Well, why Erie? Simply our veterans within the county. Our location is quite unique. We have a tremendous naval history here within Erie County. Oliver Hazard Perry is featured in this room. His Don't Give Up the Ship flags are displayed prominently in the bookcase out front. So for us, there are some 46,000 veterans that live within a 50-mile radius of Erie, Pennsylvania. That's 9% of the overall population. Within a 100-mile radius, there's more than 300,000 veterans. The Halliburton, once it's ready for public visitation, would provide the public with a dynamic walkthrough of this unique warship. It would also educate visitors on the role of the United States Navy and what those individuals who serve on board the Perry-class frigates would have endured. The proposed permanent berthing location for the Halliburton is at the east end of the bayfront on Presque Isle Bay. The site is currently vacant, undeveloped, and it's actually built from construction debris that was amassed during the 1960s. According to the U.S. Census, the 2020 census, that zip code is among the poorest in the United States. And by putting an attraction like the Halliburton there would have an outstanding and monumental impact on that area. We commissioned a marketing and feasibility study by a third party to assist us in the project's income impact. Critically, the study examined the shipyard's impact as about $18 million by the end of the 3rd year of operation as a museum. Similarly, we had a study that estimated the significant contributions to local state tax base through related spending and the first year of operation. That study estimated $1.2 million, increasing to $1.7 million by year 3. And the study projects that the Perry Shipyard would support 174 jobs by the end of year 3, and including 24 jobs directly. There's a special historical relationship between Oliver Hazard Perry and Erie, Pennsylvania, and the United States. The storied history of Perry embodies the determination, fighting spirit of the Erie region and the United States Navy. He is enshrined, and his legacy will remain so, at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. The importance of Perry's role in shaping the Navy cannot be understated. His victory defined the nation's northern border and allowed for the westward expansion of the young U.S. To weigh Perry's victory can be summed up in a simple analogy. What if Perry would have lost the Battle of Lake Erie? If Perry lost the battle, the United States would end east of the Appalachian Mountains. The great movement westward by the American people would not occur. There'd be no great American cities such as Chicago, St. Louis, or Denver. Pittsburgh may be questionable. The British would control the land west of the Appalachians, possibly as far as California. His battle flag of "Don't give up the ship" is iconic. Perry's concise battle report to General William Henry Harrison was simple and brief. "We have met the enemy, and they are ours." The USS Halliburton would stand, or will stand, as a constant reminder of the power of the United States Navy and the determination of those that served in all branches of the armed forces. The Oliver Hazard Perry Shipyard is a celebration of America and the heroic individuals that have made freedoms that we take every day and celebrate possible. For this reason, we wish to add Oliver Hazard Perry to the list of those contributors who have painted their story on the American canvas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Representative Mirsky.
Dr. Fott, thank you so much for your testimony and your efforts in obtaining this ship from the United States Navy. The renderings are very impressive, and I just applaud your efforts, so thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? There's the big birthday of the Navy's coming up, and Philadelphia we are feverishly planning. How can we link these up?
I think in a couple of regards. One, the Navy has an important place in Pennsylvania history without question. The larger American story is told in a great many ways through the Navy and the aspects that naval engagements have meant, certainly with Perry and his fleet, what he was able to do. But I think you've hit on a great point. This is an opportunity that's as big as the Commonwealth and as big as the nation. When you involve the United States Navy in something like this, to consider donating a ship, you're creating all kinds of avenues for larger connections to occur. And I'm keenly aware of that. I'll be in Philadelphia at the Navy Yard before the end of the month and have an opportunity to talk with folks that are very aware of what we're trying to do and make those connections.
Thank you so much. Last up, we have Robert Guy, Director of Operations, Becoming America.
Thank you for this opportunity to share our project with you. It's one that's very close to our hearts, and it's one that we believe will have a tremendous impact on a vast number of Pennsylvanians and Americans as we celebrate America's 250th. We're envisioning a new and unique educational experience called the Becoming America Educational Center. Over the past 20 years, we have preserved and curated a Smithsonian quality collection of original artifacts valued presently at over $1.5 million. And we've combined this collection with vivid imagery and engaging storytelling to bring early America to life. Our exhibits have engaged tens of thousands of Pennsylvanians from York County to Venango. These have taken many forms, each accenting a different dimension of Pennsylvania's story. Becoming America is excited about the prospect of expanding and solidifying into a fuller, more permanent expression in an educational center distinctly designed to encourage people to literally start here in celebrating America's birth. At Becoming America, we know the power of true stories, of real people, how life-changing that can be. Like the young orphan boy who longed to be a scholar who became Secretary of the Continental Congress. The brave young woman who stepped into her husband's place, loading cannons when he fell. William Penn's cousins who petitioned to ban slavery in the province in 1688. The Pennsylvania immigrants who collaborated to create a weapon capable of paralyzing the British Army. And David Zeisberger and the Moravians building bridges with the Lenni Lenape right here in northwest Pennsylvania in one of the best experiments of integration Pennsylvania has ever witnessed. It's the people who make Pennsylvania special. It was true then, it's true today. At our educational center, we'll explore stories through innovative and interactive learning experience. Visitors from across America can learn to write with a feather quill like John Dickinson, and with it learn the power of the pen. They can hear the story, have all this stuff protected in here, of the Haudenosaunee world on the turtle's back, to the sound of the rattle and the drum. And they will learn of captives, persecuted and imprisoned, feeling the cold, heavy steel of iron shackles, and discover what the land of the free meant to them. Our educational center will be strategically located. The crossroads of Interstate 79 and 80 connect all of western Pennsylvania from north to south, and all of America from west to east. In 2026, Americans will be passing our door on their way to Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Williamsburg. Becoming America's Educational Center will be positioned to welcome the world as it arrives in Pennsylvania, to display Pennsylvania's unique role in shaping America, and to point and serve to the numerous locations across our state where they can experience more of Pennsylvania's stories for themselves. This crossroads in northwest Pennsylvania provides easy access to school children in the many districts throughout the surrounding counties. And this location positions us to engage with several colleges and universities with internships, programming, to create new opportunities for those in art and music and drama and history, education, and several business fields. There's always more to this story. The triumphs and tragedies that Americans have faced, the tensions and the conflicts that have peppered our landscape haven't always led to hostility, but often to mutual respect, fruitful partnerships as iron sharpens iron. These stories are filled with hope, and we need these stories today. Over the years, we've established a network of some of the finest early American collectors, artists, and craftsmen. We have a passionate team, and we believe this Becoming America Educational Center will be positioned to welcome the world, to tell the stories that America so desperately needs, authentically, inclusively, and engagingly. We have a golden opportunity, we believe a winning recipe, and a scalable strategy. Becoming America not only will profoundly enhance Pennsylvania's 250th, but also greatly enrich Pennsylvania's self-awareness and storytelling into the future.
Perfectly timed, Robert. Thank you. I want to acknowledge Tim Wachter, America250PA Commissioner, our Finance Director. He brought checks to fund each of these projects, so come see him after your final testimony. Exactly. Questions, comments for Robert? Representative Mirsky.
I just want to thank you for your testimony today. Your passion for the project is palpable. You can feel it, and I think that this is one of those things that definitely connects the past to the future. One thing that I would suggest, and I know the chairman has also said this to a couple people, it seems like there's a lot of good things going on around Grove City. Anything that you can do to connect those to each other and market them together, I think is just going to strengthen the whole experience for tourism in that area.
Yeah, we're not exactly sure of a location. We're going to hopefully recycle an existing space, and so the location is actually quite up for grabs right now. But because of the access, much of what we'll do will not be location specific, but especially our school initiative, a major factor of that will basically be going to where the students are, not waiting for people to come to us.
Thank you. Anything else for Robert? Thank you so much for your testimony. Thanks for being here. Thank you to everybody. Process again is, how many tours do we have left? How many hearings? Four hearings left. We will complete those. We will then meet as a full committee, all 24 of us. We will go through all of your proposals with the full committee. We will provide recommendations. We will then come up with an omnibus budget to hopefully fund as many of these projects as we can. We thank you all. These were really thoughtful, interesting, compelling presentations. Thank you so much for being here today.